Chapter 1324. Good. 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 Zhao Wendeng was so angry that he already did not know how to retort. He said the word good 3 times in a row, glaring at Qin Taotian with eyes that were almost spitting fire. You actually also understand the principle of saying important words 3 times. Looks like it's indeed because of my teaching, haha. Qin Taotian threw his head back and laughed loudly, seemingly feeling very pleased with himself for ruthlessly humiliating Zhao Wendeng. Although Zhao Wendeng was unable to restrain his anger, he also knew that now was not the time for him to show off his might. He hesitated for a moment but still did not give up, pointing at Qin Taotian and threatening, "Don't think that just because your Qin family has that little bit of power, you can behave atrociously in Yanlin town without the slightest scruple. Just you wait, I'll make you pay the price for today's words very soon. This little brother, looks like you and your friend haven't eaten yet, right? Do you want to do me the honor of sitting down and have a simple meal with me?" Qin Taotian did not seem to care about Zhao Wendeng's threat at all, as if he had already blocked out his voice. He turned and looked at Xiao Chen with a smile, inviting him. Seeing that he was directly ignored, Zhao Wendeng could not help but become even more furious. However, the situation at present was disadvantageous to him, so he could only endure it and wave his hand at his subordinates, saying, "Humph! Let's go." But before they had taken a few steps, Zhao Wendeng turned around again, pointing at Xiao Chen and threatening coldly, "Brat, don't think that you can sit back and relax just because the surname Qin is protecting you. If you have the guts, follow him for the rest of your lives. Otherwise, if I run into you again, humph humph. At that time, I'll let you die even more horribly than old Senior Feng." No matter how Zhao Wendeng hooted, Qin Taotian still turned a blind eye to him. With a kind smile on his face, he made an inviting gesture towards Xiao Chen and Hong Zhu, indicating for the two to go up to the second floor to chat. Xiao Chen also did not pay any attention to Zhao Wendeng. Although he still did not know what Qin Taotian's objective was after thinking about it, he still cupped his hands towards him, then led Hong Zhu up the stairs, chatting cheerfully and wittily on his own as he went up the stairs. "Qin Taotian, you'll regret your decision today. And that stinking brat, don't let me see you again." Zhao Wendeng had never been given the cold shoulder like this before. He immediately felt extremely embarrassed and cursed angrily at Qin Taotian and Xiao Chen's backs. Outside the hotel, more and more onlookers were attracted by Zhao Wendeng's scolding. Many of them had been bullied by Zhao Wendeng before. Now that they saw him cursing like a shrew on the street, but no one paid any attention to him like a jumping clown, they couldn't help but be secretly delighted. Zhao Wendeng cursed a few times. Seeing that there were more and more people around, he finally realized that something was wrong. He snorted heavily, turned around, and left. His few silent subordinates hurriedly followed behind him. The scene changed to the second floor. Under Qin Taotian's lead, they arrived at a private room on the second floor and took their seats. Then, Qin Taotian instructed the lady boss to bring up another table of good wine and dishes. In fact, Qin Taotian and the others had already eaten a meal. This table had been specially prepared to entertain Xiao Chen and Hong Zhu, making them appear rather generous. "It is truly an honor to meet the two of you. I am Qin Taotian of Swallow Forest Town's Qin family." After everyone took their seats, Qin Taotian first introduced himself, then opened his mouth and asked with a chuckle, "Young heroes, looking at your travel-worn appearances, it must be your first time coming to Swallow Forest Town, right? May I know the reason for your visit this time? Is it convenient for you to introduce yourselves first?" Xiao Chen cupped his fists and said, "Hello, Brother Qin. I am called Xiao Chong. The person beside me is a junior sister from the same sect. Her surname is Hong and she is also my wife. The two of us have come here this time mainly to search for our lost senior and junior brothers." Although Qin Taotian had helped him out of trouble, Xiao Chen did not speak the truth because he was still unclear of his character and background. Moreover, he had specially used an alias when mentioning the two of them. Hearing Xiao Chen refer to her as his wife, Hong Zhu could not help but blush slightly. She was a little excited in her heart. Although she understood that Xiao Chen was only saying this to prevent her from being coveted, who knew if it might turn out to be true as he spoke. Looks like she had to grasp this opportunity well. "Little brother Xiao Chen, let's see if you can escape from elder sister's palm this time." In order to conceal her little thoughts, Hong Zhu opened her mouth and asked, "May I ask Brother Qin, just who is that young Master Zhao just now? Why is he so overbearing?" "For her, you guys are indeed from out of town. You don't even know Zhao Wendeng." "Actually Qin Taotian smiled faintly. He was just about to continue speaking when he heard someone knock on the door. Then a waiter came in with wine and dishes. Qin Taotian paused. After everything was arranged, the waiter withdrew, closed the door, and then continued, that Zhao Wendeng is the third-generation successor of Swallow Forest Town's largest family, the Zhao family. He was raised in the palm of his hand, and is normally insufferably arrogant. He often bullies men and tyrannizes women in the town. Many people find him an eyesore, but they can't do anything to him. Xiao Qin nodded in realization. Holding his chin thoughtfully, he probed, so that's how it is. Looks like this Zhao family has a very deep background. Also, I reckon that there should be quite a few experts in their family. Otherwise, Zhao Wendeng, that brat, wouldn't be so reckless outside and no one can control him. And Brother Xiao is right. Qin Taodan nodded in agreement, and then added with a face full of indignation, not only does their Zhao family have experts as many as trees in a forest, I heard that an Oris Core stage consecrator came a while ago. This time, the Zhao family is even more lawless in Swallow Forest Town. They don't put other families in their eyes at all. When mentioning the Zhao family's consecrator, Qin Taotian's eyes still revealed a trace of reverence. His voice also unconsciously became a little softer. Oh, Oris Core stage. Xiao Qin had a non-committal look on his face. It was just a Oris Core stage. Was it that awesome? If it was Xiao Qin who had just entered the Qi refinement stage, he might feel that this strength was as high as a mountain and could not be defeated. However, he was now at the peak of the 6th level of the Profound Ascension stage. A mere Oris Core stage, he didn't even feel the slightest bit of emotion. Hong Zhu, on the other hand, frowned slightly. Her concept of cultivators was still stuck at the level of the inner martial arts world. She only knew the difference between Demon General, Demon King, and Demon Venerable. As for what level of cultivation the Oris Core stage was, and how strong it was, she was also confused. She couldn't figure it out at all. Seeing that Xiao Qin didn't have any emotion, Qin Taotian thought that he was afraid in his heart but wanted to hold on. So, he patted his shoulder with a face full of righteousness and said, Brother Xiao, don't be too nervous. As long as I, Qin Taotian, am here, I think the Zhao family won't dare to easily find trouble with you. Chapter 1325. Then I'll thank Brother Qin's good intentions first. Xiao Qin smiled faintly and didn't refuse right away. Instead he asked, I presume your Qin family also has considerable strength in Yanlin Town, right? Otherwise, Zhao Wendeng wouldn't have left the matter unsettled just because of a few words from you. Now that he knew the Zhao family only had one golden core expert holding the fort, Xiao Qin didn't care about that family anymore. He also wanted to find out how much weight the Qin family had. It's alright. Although our Qin family doesn't have the Zhao family's impressive tributes, even if we were to go up against the Zhao family, we wouldn't be afraid at all. Qin Taotian patted his chest confidently and said, because my grandfather is already a Foundation Establishment Great Circle expert, and there are faint signs of a breakthrough recently. If he can successfully advance, then our Qin family will replace the Zhao family sooner or later and become the #1 family in Yanlin Town. That's really not bad. Hearing Qin Taotian's words, Xiao Qin only smiled and answered casually. He didn't make any statement. In Xiao Qin's eyes, it didn't matter to him whether the Qin family or the Zhao family could become the #1 family in Yanlin Town. Moreover, Xiao Qin could also faintly feel that Qin Taotian's purpose of treating him to a meal wasn't that simple. Therefore he only responded casually with a few sentences and cautiously didn't make any biased judgments. However, Qin Taotian didn't pay attention to Xiao Qin's attitude. Instead, he said to him earnestly, however, Brother Xiao, I still have to give you a piece of advice. After you find your lost seniors and juniors, it's better to leave Yanlin Town as soon as possible. After all, I can protect you for a while, but I can't protect you forever. I understand what you mean. I'll consider it. Xiao Qin smiled faintly and nodded. He didn't say anything more. After sweeping away all the dishes on the table and filling their stomachs, Xiao Qin and Hong Zhu stood up and said their goodbyes, preparing to set off in search of the others. As for the kindness of this meal, Xiao Qin had no way of repaying Qin Taotian at the moment. He could only wait until he had earned enough spirit crystals in the future, then think of a way to repay Qin Taotian. A group of people clustered around each other as they walked to the restaurant's entrance. After both parties bid farewell to each other, Xiao Qin and Hong Zhu turned around and left. Qin Taotian thought for a moment before he suddenly shouted, Brother Xiao, please wait, I still have something to say. Xiao Qin stopped and turned around, asking in astonishment, Brother Qin, do you have anything else to tell me? Qin Taotian walked a few steps to the front of Xiao Qin and explained, Brother Xiao Wendeng is a person who will seek revenge for the smallest grievance, so I reckon that he will bring a mid-level foundation establishment expert to cause trouble for you. If you don't mind, why don't you come to stay with us for a few days? I can borrow the Qin family's connections to help you search for your lost senior and junior brothers. What do you think? The scene of Xiao Chen killing the opponent's first-level foundation establishment expert with a single palm strike just so happened to be witnessed by Qin Taotian. He felt that Xiao Chen should be quite powerful, and it was precisely because of this that Qin Taotian had specially stepped forward to help Xiao Chen out of his predicament. While they were eating, Qin Taotian had tried to probe Xiao Chen with a few words. Unfortunately, he was unable to find out Xiao Chen's true cultivation level. However, based on the power of Xiao Chen's palm strike, Qin Taotian estimated that he should at least be at the third or fourth level of the foundation establishment stage. Thus, when they were descending the stairs, a plan suddenly appeared in Qin Taotian's mind. This was why he had rashly asked Xiao Chen and Hongzhu to stay. Many thanks for Brother Qin's good intentions. Since the Zhao family is so eager to court death, then let them be. I have my own ways to deal with them. If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave. Xiao Chen did not accept Qin Taotian's invitation. Instead, he directly shook his head and rejected it. Then he turned around and left the restaurant with Hongzhu. At present, Xiao Chen was in a hurry to find the whereabouts of Cheng Menjing and the other women. How could he have the time to get entangled with the Zhao family and the Qin family? As for the so-called Zhao family experts, he did not place them in his eyes at all. Furthermore, when Qin Taotian had mentioned searching together, Xiao Chen did not believe that a family in such a small town could have many connections that would be sufficient to help him find a place that even his divine sense could not cover. Qin Taotian had completely believed that Xiao Chen would agree immediately. He never imagined that this fellow would actually choose to reject his invitation. He was immediately stunned on the spot. However, he did not become angry because of this. Instead, he rubbed his chin and looked meaningfully at the backs of Xiao Chen and Hongzhu as they left. Just now, when he mentioned the mid-level foundation establishment experts, this Xiao Chang seemed to have a very disdainful expression. He seemed to be quite powerful. Could it be that his cultivation was higher than the foundation establishment stage? Young master, this Xiao fellow is actually so untactful. We invited him to a meal out of goodwill and even invited him back as a guest, but he still acted so arrogantly. Shouldn't we find a chance to teach him a lesson? That would also make him more cautious. When the middle-aged man behind Qin Taotian saw that he did not speak for a long time, he thought that Qin Taotian had been angered silly and suggested, "Are you crazy? This Xiao Chang's strength might even be above yours and mine. Besides, I still need to use him to attack the Zhao family. How can we become enemies with him over such a small matter? Is there something wrong with your brain?" Qin Taotian regained his senses and glared at him as he scolded. I was just speaking thoughtlessly. Please be magnanimous and don't take offense. Then what do you think we should do next? The middle-aged man jumped in fright and hurriedly said with a smile. Qin Taotian pondered for a moment and immediately made a decision. With a wave of his hand he said, "Let's follow them and take a look. When the time comes, we'll act according to the situation." After making his decision, Qin Taotian ordered his subordinates to pay for the meal. Then he led a group of people and followed behind Xiao Chen and Hongzhu from afar. From Qin Taotian's point of view, Xiao Chen's strength should not be weak. If he could fight with the Zhao family and kill a few of them, he would exhaust some of the other party's middle-level strength. Then the pressure on the Qin family would be greatly reduced. After all, the Qin family was only slightly weaker than the Zhao family. However, it was precisely this slight difference that caused the Qin family to be restrained in many areas by the Zhao family. They were unable to continue expanding and could only stay in the Zhao family's shadow to survive. If Xiao Chen could make a move and weaken the Zhao family's strength, wouldn't that mean that there was hope for their Qin family? Xiao Chen brought Hongzhu to stroll around Yanlin town for a while. As they walked, he used his divine sense to search carefully. However, he still could not find any traces of Cheng Menjing and the other women. Hongzhu even specially found a few stalls and asked if they had seen any strangers entering or leaving. The answers were all negative. It seemed that they had not appeared here at all. Helpless, Xiao Chen and Hongzhu could only decide to leave Yanlin town and search other places. Chapter 1326. Qin Taotian's group, who were following behind Xiao Chen, was at a loss when they saw Xiao Chen and Hongzhu walking towards the outskirts. Qin Taotian pondered for a moment, then instructed his subordinates to report back to the Qin family. Then he and the middle-aged man continued to follow Xiao Chen from afar. Qin Taotian had his own calculations. If Xiao Chang and the Zhao family clashed in the outskirts, then they would definitely unleash their full strength and fight. At this time, two situations would occur. One was that Xiao Chang was indeed, as he had said, very strong and had exhausted most of the other party's energy. Then, when the time came, he could step forward and harvest the remaining shrimp soldiers and crab generals, reaping the benefits when the sandpiper and clam fight. On the other hand, if Xiao Qin was defeated, then he would observe exactly what level he was at. Then he would consider whether he should help him and block the Zhao clan's attack, doing this guy a favor and saving his life. At the same time, he could rope him in for his own use. Very quickly, Xiao Qin and Hongzhu left Swallow Forest Town, heading towards the outskirts. After walking for a short distance, Hongzhu suddenly thought of something and asked, "Right, little brother Xiao Qin, I felt that black-robed old man seemed to be quite powerful. His cultivation was quite a bit higher than mine, but in the end he was actually sent flying by a single palm strike from you. What level are you at now?" "Well, with your current level of knowledge, it will be very difficult for me to explain it to you in a short time." For a moment, Xiao Qin did not know how to explain the division of cultivators to Hongzhu, so he could only give a vague answer. "What's so hard to explain? If you can't explain it in a short time, then you'll have to spend more time." Hongzhu coquettishly rolled her eyes at Xiao Qin and teased, "In any case, the two of us will be staying together for a very long time. We need to find something to do so we won't feel bored, don't you think so? In short, you just need to understand one thing, and that is that I am much more awesome than that Yanlin Town's clan." Xiao Qin rubbed his nose and gave a simple answer. It was not that Xiao Qin did not have the patience to explain things to Hongzhu, it was just that his spiritual sense had already sensed that there were two groups of people following him, so he did not want to waste any more time on this matter. Of the two groups, one was Qin Taotian and a middle-aged man. They seemed to have eaten together earlier. The other group only had one person. However, that person's cultivation was clearly higher. That was because Qin Taotian and the others did not notice that person's existence. Originally, when Xiao Qin left Swallow Forest Town, he planned on using flying swords instead of walking. However, when he considered that there were still people following behind him, he also restrained this thought, thinking that he should first keep a low profile for a while, so as to avoid letting others see through his cultivation. Besides, after coming to the immortal cultivation world, Xiao Qin had not seen anyone flying on a flying sword. He did not intend to recklessly take risks just for the sake of transportation, so it was better not to expose himself for the time being. TCH acting all mysterious. We've already seen each other naked, so what's there to hide? Hongzhu thought that Xiao Qin was deliberately refusing to tell her and pursed her lips in dissatisfaction. "Oh, that's a job requirement, there's no helping it." Xiao Qin's forehead was filled with black lines. This Hongzhu was really too unrestrained. What kind of girl would casually mention this matter? Carefully sensing the distance of the people following behind him, Xiao Qin gradually quickened his pace, walking deeper and deeper into the plains, getting further and further away from Swallow Forest Town. "TCH, what job requirement? Why do I feel like you seem to be enjoying it?" Hongzhu chuckled, then changed the topic and asked, "Also, what's the deal with those Foundation Establishment and Golden Core cultivators? You seem to understand the division of ranks in the immortal cultivation world very well. Little brother Xiao Qin, why are you suddenly walking so fast? It's not like I'm going to eat you. We're being followed. Let's not chat for now. I'll find a chance to tell you what you asked." Xiao Qin continued to quicken his pace, wanting to shake off the two groups of people behind him. After all, the less trouble the better. He also could not be bothered to get tangled up with these two weak chicken clans. "It can't be? Why don't I see anyone behind me?" Hongzhu was startled when he heard this. He subconsciously turned his head to look behind him, but did not discover the slightest thing. After looking around for a while, not hearing Xiao Qin's reply, Hongzhu turned his head back to look, but discovered that Xiao Qin had already walked several zhang away. He could not help but stomp his feet in anger, scolding in a tender voice, "Damn Xiao Qin, stinky Xiao Qin, you little scoundrel, can't you wait for me? Is there money in front waiting for you to pick up or what?" Really infuriating. Scolding was scolding, but Hongzhu still quickened his pace to catch up. If he got separated from Xiao Qin, then he would be in big trouble. The two groups of people following far behind Xiao Qin were also extremely depressed at this moment. Originally, when they had just left Swallow Forest Town, they could still keep up with Xiao Qin's speed, but as they got further and further away from Swallow Forest Town, they did not know what was going on, but the distance between them grew larger and larger. If it were not for the fact that the little girl was walking rather slowly, they would have basically lost track of him by now. Qin Taotian was leading his subordinates to chase after Xiao Chen with all his might. Suddenly he heard a so sound. A red silhouette suddenly flashed past the bushes beside him, heading towards Xiao Chen's direction as fast as lightning. F***CK. What's going on? Qin Taotian immediately jumped in fright, clutching his chest with lingering fear as he watched the red figure gradually disappear from his line of sight. Just now, Qin Taotian had not sensed the existence of that person at all. At this moment he could not help but secretly rejoice in his heart. Fortunately that fellow had not come for him, otherwise he might have already died by now. Eldest young master, that person should be an expert sent by the Zhao family. Based on his speed just now, I reckon that his cultivation is already at the great circle of the foundation establishment stage. It seems that Xiao Chang will have to suffer this time. The middle-aged man squinted his eyes as he looked into the distance, making a cautious judgment. Just now, when the red figure flashed by, he had already sensed the other party's strength. However, since that person did not attack Qin Taotian, he did not make any moves to stop him and instead allowed him to leave. Oh, I don't think so. I've always felt that the brat Xiao Chang is a little strange. Furthermore, from his and that girl's attire, they don't seem to be people from our Swallow Forest town. Perhaps. F***CK, where is he? While he was analyzing, Qin Taotian raised his head and discovered that Xiao Chang had practically disappeared without a trace. Hurry up, let's quickly chase after him. Without waiting for the middle-aged man to reply, Qin Taotian hurriedly waved his hand. While urging his movement technique to quickly chase after Xiao Chang, he also added, "Look how fast that brat is running. What I said just now is not important, we just need to quickly catch up and see how he deals with that fellow. Then we will know exactly what kind of background he has." Chapter 1327. In fact, Xiao Chen's walking speed was not very fast. He was just moving forward at a normal pace, but because of his strength at the peak of the 6th level of the profound ascension stage, every step he took was equivalent to several steps of a low-level cultivator or cultivator, sometimes even dozens of steps. Therefore, the distance between him and his pursuers was gradually widening. As he walked, Xiao Chen suddenly felt that his surroundings had become a little quiet. Looking back, he found that Hongzhu was chasing after him with puffed cheeks and panting heavily, but she was unwilling to call out to him. Xiao Chen could not help but shake his head and smile. He stopped and waited for Hongzhu to catch up to him. Reaching out, he directly picked her up and continued to walk at the same pace as before. "Humph. At least you still have a little conscience." Hongzhu pouted and knocked on Xiao Chen's chest as he habitually began to tease him. "Little brother Xiao Chen, since you like to walk so much, you might as well become my mount. In the future if big sister goes out, how about I ride you?" Being held in Xiao Chen's arms and smelling Xiao Chen's strong arms and masculine scent, Hongzhu's heart palpitated. The unhappiness of being left behind by Xiao Chen gradually faded away, and what followed was an inexplicable sense of excitement. "Ride me, as a means of transportation." Hearing Hongzhu's slightly ambiguous words, Xiao Chen almost choked. His body subconsciously trembled, not knowing how to answer, so he simply pretended that he did not hear it and picked up Hongzhu as he quickened his pace. "Little brother Xiao Chen, are we still being followed? Do you know who it is?" Seeing that his teasing had failed, Hongzhu also put away his playful thoughts and asked in a low voice with a slightly solemn expression. Looking behind them through the crook of Xiao Chen's arm, Hongzhu found that there was indeed a red object faintly discernible in the grass behind them, but because it was too far away, he could not clearly see what it was. "Yes, there are a total of 2 groups of people following us. One of them should be Qin Taotian and his subordinates, but I've already shaken them off. The other group only has 1 person. It's a man in red. I reckon he's sent by the Zhao clan to seek revenge," Xiao Chen analyzed logically. Actually, this analysis was also very simple. Because after coming to the cultivation world, he only had conflicts with Zhao Wendeng. Plus, the ones with some strength in Swallow Forest Town were the Zhao family and Qin family, so as long as there weren't any special circumstances, there was only this possibility. "Little brother Xiao Chen, actually, I've always had a question." Hongzhu paused for a moment, then asked with a strange look on his face, "Why do I feel like I can't see through you anymore? Ever since we left Swallow Forest Town, I've always been following behind you. I remember very clearly that you didn't even turn around to give us a glance. How did you know that the ones following us were Qin Taotian and a red-clothed man? Could it be that you have some kind of superpower?" "Oh, I didn't know at first either. It's just that when I turned around to carry you just now, I accidentally saw them." Xiao Chen's expression did not change as he casually made up a story. Really? But I also turned around to look just now, why didn't I see anything? Hongzhu naturally did not believe Xiao Chen's nonsense, and blurted out a question in reply. Hongzhu had a faint feeling that Xiao Chen seemed to be inextricably linked with this cultivation world, but he could not make heads or tails of it for a moment. He also did not know where this feeling of his came from. Maybe it's because both of my eyes have 0 points of vision so I can see more clearly. As Xiao Chen spoke without thinking, he silently calculated the distance between himself and the red-clothed man in his heart. After walking a few more steps, Xiao Chen felt that it was about time. Soon after, he leaped up and quickly dodged into the underbrush at the side. This I don't believe. Hongzhu curled his lips and was just about to open his mouth to refute when he felt a blade of grass gently brushing past his cheek. Just as he cried out in alarm, his body was immediately covered by the underbrush. After hiding in the underbrush, Xiao Chen still tightly hugged Hongzhu in his arms, and then casually arranged a camouflage spell. Since he did not know whether the red-clothed man had other helpers or not, Xiao Chen decided to observe for a while before making his move for the sake of caution. Little brother Xiao Chen, don't tell me you're thinking of taking advantage of the fact that Menjing and Tang Tang aren't here to push this big sister down? Hongzhu came back to her senses and found Xiao Chen's posture. She could not help but smile coquettishly and whispered in his ear with a sexy and charming voice, "Moreover, you actually chose to do it in the wild. I didn't expect that although you look so obedient and well-behaved, you're actually quite interesting." "Shoo, don't talk, that man is coming." Xiao Chen frowned slightly and pressed his index finger against Hongzhu's soft and moist lips, wanting to stop her from talking. However, as soon as he pressed his finger, Xiao Chen immediately felt his fingertip slip, and his entire finger was suddenly wrapped by something warm, as if something nimble was constantly teasing his index finger. Xiao Chen could not help but shiver. When he looked down, he found that Hongzhu had his index finger in her mouth, and was even slowly licking his fingertip with her tongue. The way she looked at Xiao Chen was exuding a strong sense of seduction, and the tips of her eyebrows and the corners of her eyes were filled with endless amorous feelings. Her finger was also gently caressing Xiao Chen's pectoral muscles and biceps. Xiao Chen was really helpless against this little demoness Hongzhu. What kind of situation was this, and yet she still had the mood to tease him? Glaring at Hongzhu in annoyance, Xiao Chen was about to withdraw his finger, when he suddenly heard the sound of hurried footsteps approaching from afar. Xiao Chen craned his neck to look, and to his surprise, the person running towards him was the man in red who had been following closely behind him. What the hell? Where did that brat run off to with that girl? Don't tell me that he suddenly got excited and hid in the woods to have some wild sex? The man in red searched the surrounding area for a long time, but did not find Xiao Chen and Hongzhu, who were very close to him. He could not help but angrily curse. I clearly saw them burrow into the bushes, so why can't I even see their shadows now? Could it be that I, your father, was mistaken? Xiao Chen quietly waited for a while, and after confirming that there were no signs of anyone else besides Qin Taoyan's group behind the man in red, he felt relieved. He immediately cancelled the camouflage, stood up with Hongzhu in his arms and sneered, "Hey! What are you looking for? This young master is right here. I didn't think that you would actually be blind despite having such a large pair of eyes." "Who's there?" The man in red with very large eyes was so frightened by the sudden voice that he stumbled back a few steps. After that, he came to his senses and immediately turned around. He stared with his large eyes, and discovered that Xiao Chen was leisurely standing there with Hongzhu in his arms, and was looking at him with a faint smile on his face. Chapter 1328. Upon seeing this, the man in red subconsciously lowered his head to look at where Xiao Chen was hiding, but he did not see any hole in the ground. Moreover, he remembered that he had specifically inspected that area just now, and there was nothing special about it other than the lush underbrush. How could he not have discovered them? Shaking his head, the man in red cast aside his doubts and glared at Xiao Chen, shouting, "Brat, you're finally willing to show yourself. I've been looking for you for a long time. Hurry up and tell me, where were you hiding with that girl just now? Why are you asking so many questions? Do you have something on or not? If you don't, then hurry up and get lost. Don't get in the way of our lovey-dovey. A single dog will be struck by lightning," Xiao Chen said lazily. He even waved his hand impatiently as if he was dismissing a beggar. Since the other party was alone, there was nothing for him to worry about. Hongzhu secretly pursed her lips and smiled. Very cooperatively, she leaned her head on Xiao Chen's shoulder, then rolled her eyes at the man in red. Pursing her lips, she protested angrily, "That's right, that's right. They're in the middle of a lovey-dovey moment. Why is a big-eyed monster like you suddenly stirring up trouble? You're ruining the atmosphere. Hehe, you've offended the eldest young master of the Zhao family. Do you think you can get away so easily?" The man in red sneered. His gaze swept across Xiao Chen's face, then landed on Hongzhu. He immediately could not take his eyes off her. "What are you looking at? Do you believe that this eldest young master will dig your eyeballs out and throw them into the river?" Xiao Chen frowned and shouted in a deep voice. He was very displeased with the man in red's lecherous gaze. The man in red turned a deaf ear to Xiao Chen's rebuke. At this moment, his large eyes were filled with passion and lust as they swept across Hongzhu's breasts and perky buttocks. Then, his eyes lingered on the curves of her exquisite waist as his breathing quickened. Tsk, she really is an exquisite girl. No wonder young Master Zhao is so infatuated with her and even caused old Thing Feng to lose his life. The red-clothed man swallowed a mouthful of saliva and sighed with a vulgar expression. Xiao Chen's complexion had already sunk. He gently placed Hongzhu on the ground, then moved in front of her in a flash, blocking the red-clothed man's sight. He said with a sullen face, "You really were sent by that little bastard of the Zhao family. If I had known earlier, I would have killed him back then. I wouldn't have caused so much trouble now." Seeing Hongzhu being admired by someone else, Xiao Chen felt an extremely uncomfortable feeling in his heart. However, he defined this feeling as the anger of seeing his friend being bullied, and did not have any other thoughts. "Ah, stinking brat, it's too late for you to regret it now." The red-clothed man withdrew his gaze and threw his head back to the sky with a long laugh. Then he revealed a sinister expression and stared at Xiao Chen. He said coldly, "No one who provokes our Zhao family will be able to leave Yanlin town alive. You are no exception." As soon as he finished speaking, the red-clothed man pulled out a black wooden club from behind him. Then, his body trembled slightly and he revealed the cultivation of the great circle of the Foundation establishment stage. A wave of vitality instantly enveloped his entire body. "Sigh, it seems like this Zhao family is only SOSO. This young master had thought that he could find someone more powerful to fight with. In the end, he only had a mere great circle of the Foundation establishment stage. He's simply looking down on this young master too much. I want to express my solemn protest." Xiao Chen yawned and shook his head with extreme dissatisfaction. What Xiao Chen said was not an exaggeration. Against this kind of low-level cultivator, he really did not have much interest in fighting. This was because, to him, they were basically just a move, and it was purely a waste of energy. However, after 2 fights, Xiao Chen noticed something different. The people in the immortal cultivation world seemed to have to rely on all kinds of weapons when they fought, such as talismans or rods. They were different from the pugilistic world and the secular world, where they basically only needed to rely on their fists and legs to solve their problems. Xiao Chen suddenly thought of Wang Fantian. That guy was not considered a cultivator, but he had extraordinary strength. Therefore he could casually pick up all kinds of strange heavy objects and use them as weapons, using them to make up for his lack of strength. "Stinking brat, I didn't expect you to be so stubborn. However, it's alright. While you still have time, you can say a few more words. Otherwise, you won't have the chance later." The man in red did not take Xiao Chen's words to heart. He sneered and covered the entire black wooden club with yuan qi. Then he forcefully waved it, and a tree that was so thick that it would take 2 people to wrap their arms around it fell to the ground with a loud bang. Hongzhu, who was hiding behind Xiao Chen, could not help but jump in fright when he saw this. He thought that this person was much more powerful than the old man from before. Would Xiao Chen be able to deal with him? "Wow, you're so powerful." Xiao Chen looked at the tree on the ground and clapped his hands a few times in amazement. He loudly exclaimed, "I really couldn't tell that you were a woodcutter. The Zhao family is really full of talents. Ignorant child, have you never seen a person with divine strength like mine?" After being ridiculed by Xiao Chen, the man in red's face turned green. He was about to reveal his strength in an extremely displeased manner, but he was interrupted halfway through his sentence. "Do you know why I lured you here?" Xiao Chen did not want to waste any more words with him and asked straightforwardly. The man in red was momentarily stunned when he heard this. "I clearly did not expose myself earlier, so how did this kid sense it?" He narrowed his eyes and asked cautiously, "So, you know that I'm following you?" "Of course I know. Otherwise, why would I deliberately stop and wait for you?" I've long since left you in the dust. Xiao Qin shrugged innocently, the corners of his lips curling into a thought-provoking smile. Don't talk nonsense. I clearly saw you take that girl and hide in the bushes. Don't tell me that you're not going to have some wild sex? The man in red felt that Xiao Qin was boasting and could not help but ask suspiciously. Oh, that's not it. I was going to hit you. As soon as Xiao Qin's voice fell, he did not wait for the man in red to react. He immediately rushed forward and threw a punch at the man's chest. Shameless bastard. You actually sneak attacked. The man in red turned pale with fright. However, he was still somewhat quick-witted. Before Xiao Qin's fist arrived, he quickly took a step back and used the black wooden stick in front of his chest to block the attack. Xiao Qin had already guessed that the man in red would do this. However, he directly ignored the wooden stick and smashed his fist down. Gotcha. With a muffled sound, the black wooden stick was instantly smashed into pieces. Xiao Qin's fist did not slow down and landed heavily on the man in red's chest. Chapter 1329. Ah. The man in red let out a blood-curdling scream. His ribs had been dented by Xiao Qin's fist, directly piercing through his heart. His entire body flew backwards, crushing a few large trees before landing on the ground. He spat out a mouthful of fresh blood, his eyes were wide open and he stopped breathing. He looked as though he had died with a grievance. At the same time, Qin Taotian finally arrived nearby with his subordinates, panting heavily. He just happened to see Xiao Qin send the man in red flying with a single punch, and the man fell dead on the spot. He immediately stopped in his tracks, turned around, and hid behind a large tree not far away, completely not daring to show himself. At this moment, Qin Taotian's expression was completely dumbfounded. In his heart, he was roaring crazily, "How is this possible?" That was an expert at the peak of the Foundation establishment stage. He was actually killed by a single punch from that fellow. How is this possible? Could it be that I saw wrongly? Taking a deep breath, Qin Taotian sneakily peeked his head out from behind the tree and glanced at the man in red lying on the ground. He discovered that there was a large hole in the man's chest, and there was blood continuously flowing out of it. It looked extremely terrifying. Feeling a gust of cold wind blow past, Qin Taotian couldn't help but shiver. He thought to himself, how strong is this Xiao Chang? Even someone at the peak of the Foundation establishment stage can be easily killed by him without a single scratch. One must know that even the strongest person in the family, grandfather, is only at the peak of the Foundation establishment stage. Looks like Xiao Chang is even stronger than grandfather. Could it be that he is already an expert of the golden core stage? The middle-aged man beside Qin Taotian was also extremely shocked. He wiped the cold sweat off his forehead, and his face was filled with disbelief. Secretly looking at the motionless Xiao Chen in the distance, the middle-aged man thought back. When he was Xiao Chen's age, he probably hadn't even reached the Foundation establishment stage, and was only at the qi refining stage. Could this rising star be a disciple of some hidden sect or high-class family in the immortal cultivation world? The two of you over there, stop hiding. You followed me for a while, right? Why aren't you showing yourselves? Xiao Chen turned his head to look in Qin Taotian's direction as he spoke indifferently. His voice was just loud enough for Qin Taotian and Xiao Chen to hear. The reason why Xiao Chen did not deal with Qin Taotian and his subordinates was because he felt that Qin Taotian had a decent character. Although he suspected that Qin Taotian was using him, he did not have any bad intentions. At the very least, he had treated Xiao Chen and Hong Zhu to a meal. Hearing Xiao Chen's voice, Qin Taotian was slightly startled. He exchanged glances with the middle-aged man and no longer dared to hide. He hurriedly walked out of the thicket and said with a smile, that, Lord Immortal, we don't know how powerful you are, so we thought of following you to take a look. If we have offended you in any way, please forgive us, ha. Although he had never seen a golden core stage expert, Qin Taotian had heard his grandfather mention that many top-notch experts had very strange tempers. They especially did not like to be followed. Therefore he was very regretful at this moment. If Xiao Chang took revenge on the Qin family because of this matter, then the entire family would definitely be burned to the ground in an instant. It was all his fault for playing petty tricks. He thought that he could hide in the back and wait to reap the benefits. He did not expect that he had made a huge mistake this time. Oh, since you have seen how powerful I am now, there shouldn't be any other problems, right? Then I'm leaving, bye-bye. Xiao Chen shook his head, feeling angry and amused at the same time. He turned around and left with Hong Zhu. He did not expect the people in the immortal cultivation world to be like the Shishan giant bull. As long as they saw someone more powerful than them, they would call them immortal. Did they really treat them as gods? Qin Taotian was dumbfounded again. What was up with this immortal Xiao? He did not seem angry? Could it be that he would not attack his own family? But, immortal Xiao, please wait. While Qin Taotian was still in a daze, Xiao Chen had already walked several meters away with Hongzhu. He hurriedly shouted and chased after them with large strides. Then he bowed respectfully and said, "If exalted immortal Xiao doesn't mind, would it be possible for you to come to our Qin clan and stay for a few days?" "Why do I have to stay at your house? Give me a reason first." Xiao Chen's heart stirred. He stopped in his tracks and looked at Qin Taotian with a smile as he asked. Right now he was penniless. The money of the secular world was also not usable here. Since Qin Taotian was in a hurry to curry favor with him, why not? Although their family was very small and weak, he was in the dark in the immortal cultivation world. In a situation where he had no clue what to do, he needed someone to answer his questions. At the same time, he could also sell Qin Taotian a favor. Who knows, he might even be moved to tears. "Just now, I took the liberty to follow immortal Xiao. I feel very apologetic and would like to express my apologies." Qin Taotian hurriedly explained. "Also, I believe that my grandfather would be very happy to invite a top expert like you to his house as a guest." Xiao Chen glanced at the red-clothed man's corpse not far away. He rolled his eyes and asked with a smile, "But I just killed someone from the Zhao clan. They'll definitely come looking for me for revenge. Aren't you, or your clan, afraid of being implicated by me?" "No. What's there to be afraid of?" Qin Taotian immediately patted his chest and said energetically, "Our Qin family is not to be trifled with. Also, immortal Xiao, you just killed a foundation establishment expert from the Zhao family. I think they will need a long time to recover. They definitely won't dare to cause trouble for us." Although that was what he said, Qin Taotian thought in his heart, so what if the Zhao family comes? As long as you are in the Qin family, they will be seeking death if they come. Really? I don't think it's that simple. Xiao Chen saw through Qin Taotian's thoughts at a glance. He smiled faintly and said teasingly, "You dare to make such a guarantee because I'm here. That's why they won't dare to come, right?" I really can't hide it from immortal Xiao Chen's eyes. I wonder what you think." Qin Taotian scratched his head awkwardly and smiled sheepishly as his thoughts were exposed. "Alright, since there's nothing else to do, I'll go back with you to take a look." Xiao Chen pretended to be deep in thought for a while before nodding. Other than wanting to understand the situation of the entire world of cultivation, Xiao Chen also wanted to use the Qin family to find the whereabouts of Cheng Menjing and the other women. Although the Qin family was small, there might be some information channels that he did not have. Instead of searching blindly in the world of cultivation, it was better to find a local helper first. That would save a lot of trouble. "That's great. Immortal Xiao, please follow me." Qin Taotian was overjoyed and immediately made a gesture of invitation. He then gave the middle-aged man a look and asked him to lead the way. He accompanied Xiao Chen and walked forward while chatting. Chapter 1330. On one hand, Qin Taotian wanted to build a good relationship with Xiao Chen, but on the other hand he hoped to obtain some information from Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen could naturally see through Qin Taotian's cunning mind, but Xiao Chen did not pay much attention to it. He chatted with him from time to time. Whenever it came to his origins and specific strength, Xiao Chen's answers were quite perfunctory, and he would just beat around the bush. Towards Xiao Chen's vague answers, Qin Taotian was also somewhat helpless. After asking a few more times, he understood that Xiao Chen was not willing to go into too much detail, so he did not dare to ask any further. After all, Xiao Chen's strength was unfathomable. If he said something wrong and angered Xiao Chen, then he would not have a good time. After walking for about an hour, the group once again returned to Yanlin town. Qin Taotian brought Xiao Chen and Hongzhu to the Qin residence, turning left and right. After entering, he first ordered a servant to inform his grandfather, and then politely invited Xiao Chen and Hongzhu into the guest hall to rest for a while. He also ordered someone to bring over some snacks and fruits for the two to enjoy. Xiao Chen did not refuse. He casually sat down at the seat of honor at the head of the guest seats. Hongzhu sat down next to Xiao Chen and leaned against the back of the chair. Her posture was very alluring, but Qin Taotian did not dare to look at her for too long. This was exalted immortal Zhao's wife. If he looked at her for too long, wouldn't he be courting death? Not long after, a solemn and unsmiling old man in azure robes walked into the guest hall with steady steps. After sweeping his gaze around, he first glanced at Xiao Chen and Hong Zhu, then turned his head to look at Qin Taotian sternly and asked, Taotian, I heard that you had a conflict with Zhao Wendeng in the restaurant today, and even brought back 2 supreme experts. What exactly happened? This green-clothed old man had a bronze-colored face, and his bright and piercing eyes were like sharp swords as they swept across the audience. Although he was already over 60 years of age and had grizzled hair, once he spoke, his voice was as vigorous and powerful as a large bell, without the slightest feeling of an old man lacking in energy. The green-robed elder was the head of the Qin family, Qin Shengling. Initially, when he found out that Qin Taotian had intentionally offended the Zhao family's hedonistic son, Zhao Wendeng, in order to help someone out of trouble, he was a little displeased. He was prepared to teach this rascal a lesson when he returned. He didn't expect that after waiting for a long time, he just heard the servant report that young Master Qin had returned, but at the same time he also brought back 2 experts. The anger in Qin Shengling's heart immediately turned into confusion. When Qin Shengling stepped into the living room and saw Xiao Chen and Hong Zhu, his heart skipped a beat. He thought to himself, Taoan, this little bastard, he wasn't deceived, was he? These 2 people looked very young. They didn't look like top-notch experts at all. Could it be that they had colluded with Zhao Wendeng and purposely set up a scene of a dispute, using this as a pretext to infiltrate the Qin family as spies? Grandfather, don't be anxious. Listen to me slowly, it's like this. Qin Taotian was very clear about his grandfather's suspicious and cautious temperament. He was afraid that his grandfather would say something that would offend exalted immortal Xiao in a moment of doubt, so he hurriedly described in detail how Xiao Chen had killed a Foundation establishment expert with a single palm strike, and then instantly killed a Foundation establishment expert with a single punch. Hiss! Qin Shengling sucked in a breath of cold air after he finished listening. With an expression of disbelief, he asked suspiciously, You're saying that the 2 Foundation establishment experts sent by the Zhao family were both killed? And one of them was even at the Foundation establishment peak? That's right, that's right. Qin Taotian nodded his head repeatedly. He pointed at Xiao Chen and introduced, This is exalted immortal Xiao, the one who killed the 2 experts from the Zhao family. I invited him to our house as a guest. At this moment, Qin Shengling's expression had already regained its calm. He turned around and sized up Xiao Chen. His face revealed just the right amount of doubt and he said calmly, From what Taotian said, you're that Xiao Chong who killed the 2 experts from the Zhao family with one move? How could Xiao Chen not see the doubt in the green-robed elder's eyes? However, he was too lazy to explain, so he nodded his head casually. Qin Shengling narrowed his eyes and looked at the unmoving Xiao Chen. He asked with slight doubt, This makes this old man a little confused. This little brother looks so young. Could it be that the people from the Zhao family are all good-for-nothings? How could they be so easily killed by you? It sounds a little fishy. From Qin Shengling's point of view, the experts in the immortal cultivation world should be older elders. At the very least, they should be middle-aged men. Although Qin Taotian addressed him as exalted immortal Xiao, this exalted immortal looked a little too young, right? Not to mention the seductive girl beside him. No matter how he looked at her, she did not look like an expert at all. Grandfather. How can you say that? Although exalted immortal Xiao is young, he does have the ability. The scene where he killed the 2 experts from the Zhao family, Uncle Nong and I saw it with our own eyes. Qin Taotian saw that his grandfather was still a little doubtful, so he hurriedly pointed at the middle-aged man beside him. The man who was addressed as Uncle Nong nodded his head, indicating that he had indeed witnessed the entire process. Oh, is that so? Qin Shengling frowned. He still felt that his grandson might have been tricked. Perhaps the other party had purposely set up this scene for them to see? As long as he could get his hands on a suitable tool, this silly kid would definitely fall for it immediately. Of course. Qin Taotian's back was drenched in cold sweat. He hurriedly turned his head and smiled apologetically at Xiao Chen. That exalted immortal Xiao, please don't take it to heart. My grandfather is old and his thinking is more old-fashioned. He is not able to adapt to the trends of the new era. Oh, it doesn't matter. Xiao Chen put down the melon seeds in his mouth and stood up expressionlessly. He looked coldly at Qin Shengling and said casually, Since old Master Qin has doubts about my ability, then let me verify it a little. After saying that, Xiao Chen released a faint pressure that enveloped Qin Shengling and Qin Taotian. Qin Shengling's expression was a little puzzled at first. He did not know how Xiao Chen was going to verify his ability. Could it be that he was going to find someone else to fight? Before the thoughts in his mind could finish spinning, Qin Shengling immediately felt the temperature in the living room drop abruptly. A vast and ghastly pressure that blotted out the sky and covered the earth assaulted his face. The air was filled with a feeling of suffocation and death. It was as if an enormous ancient ferocious beast was baring its ferocious fangs at him. Qin Shengling's expression changed drastically. He could not be bothered to say anything else. He hurriedly circulated the primordial qi in his body to resist. Exalted, immortal Shao. You are a magnanimous person. Please don't stoop to my grandfather's level. Qin Taoyan's legs were also trembling from the pressure. He could not even speak clearly. With a pained expression he stammered for mercy. Chapter 1331. Yes. Exalted immortal Shao, I was wrong, very wrong. I already believe that you have the ability to kill a Foundation establishment stage expert. Qin Shengling was also drenched in sweat at this time, and his face was green as he added with difficulty. Although Qin Shengling had already reached the peak of the Foundation establishment stage, he still felt breathless when he faced the terrifying pressure that Xiao Qin exuded. It was as if his life would be taken away at any time. You believe me? You don't need me to continue to prove it? Xiao Qin asked in return. Seeing the grandfather and grandson nodding desperately, a faint smile appeared on his face. He retracted the pressure and folded his arms in front of his chest. With a plop, the pressure on Qin Taoyan's back was relieved. Instead, his legs turned to jelly and he directly knelt on the ground. Qin Shengling was slightly better and could still stand, but he was also panting heavily. Looking at the demonic smile on Xiao Chen's face, Qin Shengling wiped the sweat from his forehead guiltily. Judging from the pressure just now, the expert in front of him was at least at the peak of the golden core stage. How could he be so stupid? He actually offended such a great expert. Xiao Qin shook his head as he looked at the two people in a sorry state and the silent Uncle Nong beside them. He clicked his tongue and sighed. I remember there's a saying. How does it go? It seems that if you don't listen to your grandson you will suffer. It seems that the ancients did not deceive me. Since you have no doubts about my strength now, we can finally sit down and have a good chat. Hearing Xiao Chen's mockery, Qin Shengling could not help but look embarrassed. He hurriedly bowed and made an inviting gesture. He said humbly, Exalted immortal Shao, I have offended you just now. It is because I have to take care of such a family all day and the affairs are complicated. I was blinded for a moment. I hope you will not take it to heart. Come, exalted immortal, please take a seat. Qin Shengling did not want to sit on the main seat and insisted that Xiao Qin sit on it. Xiao Qin tried to refuse a few words. Seeing that he could not dissuade him, he no longer modestly declined and directly sat on the main seat. Hong Zhu, who had been sitting on the side, was dumbfounded. What happened? How did Xiao Qin suddenly become so powerful? Although the major clans and sects in the martial arts world all followed his lead, Hong Zhu had always thought that it was because Xiao Qin had relied on his intelligence to scheme. But this was the cultivation world. Xiao Qin had never revealed his intelligence, so why did they all revere him so much? Furthermore, based on the conversation between Qin Taotian and his grandfather, the two people that Xiao Qin killed were actually experts of the Foundation establishment stage. Xiao Qin was only a perfected venerable. Where did he get his strength from? This was too strange and it didn't conform to common sense at all. Hong Zhu looked at Xiao Qin, who was sitting in the seat of honor. He had originally thought that he had completely understood this little boy, but now he discovered that he was still full of mysteries. He was so mysterious, so unfathomable. Hong Zhu wanted to ask him immediately, but it was inconvenient for her to speak directly with the people of the Qin clan around. She could only plan to interrogate Xiao Chen when she was alone with him at night. Immortal Shao, let me introduce myself first. Seeing that Xiao Chen had taken a seat, Qin Shengling also sat down beside him and said, My name is Qin Shengling. I originally wanted to be arrogant, but after witnessing Immortal Zhao's strength today, I finally understand what it means to be a frog at the bottom of a well. I'm truly ashamed. Afraid that Xiao Chen would bear a grudge against the Qin clan because of his earlier actions, Qin Shengling also flattered Xiao Chen when he introduced himself. Haha, old clan Master Qin, there is no need to belittle yourself so much. I accepted young Master Qin's invitation to come to your residence this time, not to ridicule your Qin clan. Xiao Chen waved his hand and untied the knot in Qin Shengling's heart with a few words. Xiao Chen also knew that Qin Shengling actually did not have much ill intentions. After all, a so-called expert had suddenly come to the clan, and he was so young at that. As the head of the clan, it was only right for him to be on guard. Immortal Xiao is truly magnanimous. This old man is extremely impressed. Qin Shengling nodded gratefully, then turned to Qin Taotian and said, Taotian, Immortal Xiao is a guest at our residence. You must treat him well and show him all the proper etiquette. Do not neglect him. Qin Taotian hurriedly nodded in agreement, thinking to himself, I was already very polite to him, but it was you who tried to put on a show of strength the moment you arrived. In the end, I was slapped in the face. After Qin Shengling and Qin Taotian finished their conversation, Xiao Qin said indifferently, Actually, it's like this. My wife and I have just arrived at this precious place, so there are some things that we would like to seek advice from the local big families. That's why we came to disturb you. Ah, Immortal Xiao is too kind. We welcome your hospitality very much. Hearing Xiao Qin refer to the Qin clan as a big family, Qin Shengling's face almost turned into a chrysanthemum flower. He said enthusiastically, I dare not seek advice. Please feel free to ask. As long as this old man knows, I will tell you everything. Qin Shengling felt that not only was Xiao Qin powerful, but he was also very good with words. He was at least an expert at the Golden Core stage, and he was only at the peak foundation establishment stage. Moreover, he was so young and would definitely have great achievements in the future. Qin Shengling had to seize this opportunity to rope in this expert. That's right, that's right. Immortal Xiao, please don't stand on ceremony with us. Just ask whatever you want. Qin Taotian echoed. Xiao Qin was silent for a moment, then said, Actually, my wife and I are not from the world of immortal cultivation. We came from somewhere else. As for where we came from, there's no need for you to know, so I won't tell you. Qin Shengling and Qin Taotian were stunned at the same time. They did not expect that Xiao Qin would say this. They could not help but look at each other, a little dumbfounded. Xiao Qin took in the expressions of Qin Shengling and Qin Taotian. He continued calmly, So this time, I want to understand the situation of the world of immortal cultivation first, then make plans for the future. When Xiao Qin finished speaking, Qin Shengling and Qin Taotian were still in a state of shock. They did not expect Immortal Xiao to come from somewhere else. This was simply too unbelievable. No wonder he had such powerful strength at such a young age. So he was not from this place. Could it be that everyone in the place he came from was so powerful? After waiting for a while, Xiao Qin saw that the two of them did not move. He frowned unhappily and cleared his throat. Qin Shengling was the older one after all, so he reacted first. He quickly said, Exalted Immortal Xiao, I've lived longer than Taotan. Let me explain it to you. Chapter 1332. In Qin Shengling's heart, since they had such strong strength, what was so important about them being from the immortal cultivation world? The key was whether or not he could rope them in. Since they knew nothing about the immortal cultivation world, it was a great opportunity for him to express his goodwill. For a clan like the Qin clan that existed like an ant in the immortal cultivation world, it was already a blessing to be able to get to know an expert at the peak of Gold Core stage. If he could owe them a small favor, then why not? After making up his mind, Qin Shengling opened his mouth and slowly narrated, Ever since I was born, the immortal cultivation world has existed for thousands of years. Not only are there unique cultivation resources here, but there are also inexhaustible treasures of heaven and earth. Listening to Qin Shengling's clear and mellow introduction, Xiao Qin was not the slightest bit interested. He didn't want to listen to such a long speech at all, so he yawned slightly impatiently, indicating that he could skip this part. Unfortunately, Qin Shengling only cared about reciting history with great emotion and didn't notice Xiao Qin's actions at all. Xiao Qin could only helplessly interrupt, Stop. I don't want to understand the history of the immortal cultivation world right now. I just want to know which large clans and sects are here, as well as the strength of the cultivators here. The rest doesn't matter. So that's how it is. Qin Shengling's old face turned red and he awkwardly apologized. My apologies, Exalted Immortal Xiao. I'm old and I just like to talk about useless things. Xiao Qin waved his hand, indicating that it was all right. Qin Shengling rubbed his nose and continued to explain, The immortal cultivation world is a very big place, and there are countless sects and clans in it. As for the strongest, this old man isn't too sure either. It can't be? Your Qin clan should have been in the immortal cultivation world for many years. How could you not know which sect is the strongest? Hong Zhu interrupted with some astonishment. Heroine, don't think that our Qin clan has some foundation. To put it bluntly, we are only a small clan in Yanlin town. The other one is the Zhao clan that you met today. At the mention of the Zhao family, Qin Shengling raised his eyebrows in disdain and snorted. Although their strength is slightly higher than the Qin families, they are still mediocre in the immortal cultivation world. No one will know even if I tell them. Xiao Qin had already expected this. How powerful could a family like this be when the highest level was at the gold core stage? If this kind of clan could be famous in the immortal cultivation world, then there was basically nothing to see in this place. What about cultivators? Are there many cultivators here? How strong are they? Xiao Qin asked after pondering for a while. As for cultivators, Qin Shengling thought about it and shook his head. I wonder what kind of cultivators you are referring to, exalted immortal Xiao. In our immortal cultivation world, the people who usually cultivate are collectively referred to as immortal cultivators. As for the cultivators you mentioned, they are basically low-level martial cultivators and devil cultivators. What did you say? Hong Zhu abruptly stood up, a look of shock on his face as he asked, Isn't this a little too exaggerated? You said that martial cultivators and demonic cultivators are low-level cultivators? How is this possible? Could it be that there is a big gap between them and immortal cultivators? Qin Shengling looked at Hong Zhu with some bewilderment. He did not know why Hong Zhu had such a big reaction. However, he still drank a mouthful of tea and explained in full detail, It is indeed like this. Martial cultivators and devil cultivators in the immortal cultivation world work for immortal cultivators. They are usually outer disciples of clans or sections. Usually, they will do some trivial things or dirty and tiring work that requires physical strength. Hong Zhu opened her mouth, feeling extremely depressed and speechless. He did not expect that the cultivators who were so awesome in the inner martial world would only be doing odd jobs for others in the immortal cultivation world. Moreover, it did not sound very honorable, as if they were looked down upon by others. Wasn't this disparity too big? Old Patriarch Qin, from your tone, this Yanlin town doesn't seem to be much in the immortal cultivation world? Xiao Qin frowned and asked with some concern. Then, do you know how many similar towns there are in the immortal cultivation world besides Yanlin town? Is there an even larger city? Although he had a rough understanding of the strength of the immortal cultivators here, Xiao Qin still had another matter to worry about. Just Yanlin town alone was so big. If Cheng Minjing and the others were scattered all over the immortal cultivation world when they were transported here, then wouldn't it be very difficult for him to find them? Might even take a few years. Yes, but there is no such thing as a city in our immortal cultivation world. Yanlin town is the smallest town, and there are also some villages beside it. Further up are the prefectures. Oh, that's right, some businessmen like to call prefectures cities. Then there are many small towns like our Yanlin town in every prefecture. Together they form a large prefecture. Qin Shengling explained. Oh, then does every prefecture have a provincial capital? In other words, those towns that are cultural and political centers? And which prefecture does your Yanlin town belong to? Xiao Qin felt that the composition of the immortal cultivation world was actually not too different from that of the secular world. They were all made up of various small towns and they just changed the names. Yes, there is. The largest prefecture city in the prefecture is actually the most central town. Whatever the name of the prefecture is, that town is called that. Qin Shengling sighed and continued, As for our Yanlin town, it is already a small town at the edge of the entire prefecture. Even in the immortal cultivation world, it is considered very peripheral. Normally we don't go to the prefecture too much, so we don't know too much. What's the reason for that? Don't you need to do business and trade? Hearing Qin Shengling say this, Xiao Qin asked with some doubt, Besides, you only have such a small town, so it's quite inconvenient. Some things can only be found in the prefecture, right? Xiao Qin suddenly thought of a reason. Could it be that because Yanlin town was really too remote, and it was very inconvenient to go to the prefecture, so the Qin and Zhao families chose to stay here and be local tycoons? Anyway, the mountains were high and the emperor was far away, and others couldn't care less about this place. Naturally, they were happy to be free and unfettered. That's right, but it's not that we don't want to go, it's just that we're too scared. Qin Shengling shook his head, and there was some fear in his expression. Exalted Immortal Xiao, you might not know this, but although the Qin family usually does some small business, we have to be extremely careful when we go to the prefecture. Hearing this unexpected answer, Xiao Qin was even more puzzled. He asked with some confusion, Why is that? Could it be that there are scourges and fierce beasts in the prefecture? Or do we have to pay very high taxes after we go there? Chapter 1333. Neither. It's just that there are a lot of cultivators there and they are very powerful. Qin Xingling's face was full of lingering fear. Obviously he had experienced it himself. He replied with a little fear, take the Luxian prefecture, which is the closest to our Yanlin town, for example. The streets are full of experts in the foundation establishment stage, and there are even quite a few in the golden core stage. It's simply impossible to guard against. Impossible to guard against? Could it be that there are cultivators who dare to openly rob you when you go there to do some small business? Hearing this, Xiaoqin could not help but feel very puzzled and worried. It sounded like the world of cultivators was also quite chaotic. He hoped that Qing Minjing and the others would not encounter any danger. Alas, Immortal Xiao, you don't know. Robbery is considered a good thing. Qin Shengling sighed helplessly and said, because the Luxian prefecture is located in the most remote northwest of the entire world of cultivators, the atmosphere here is also extremely bad. Those powerful cultivators usually wander on the road, and murder and robbery happen from time to time. Really? So brutal? Xiaoqin was taken aback. He hurriedly asked, are there no rules and regulations that can govern this? The system and regulation are useless. Qin Shengling said bitterly, not to mention the system, even the Parliament of Cultivators can't control those people. They can't intervene when something happens. They can only turn a blind eye to it. It's so serious. What kind of organization is the Parliament of Cultivators you mentioned? Xiaoqin frowned more and more, and the feeling of uneasiness in his heart grew stronger. Although Qing Minjing had reached the peak of the original infant stage after the previous sacrificial ceremony, she was extremely lacking in actual combat experience. She could make do with novices, but if she encountered a more cunning cultivator, the consequences would probably be unimaginable. As for Tang Tang and Yu Xiaochuan, there was no need to mention them. Even if the latter had practiced the evil chrysanthemum treasure book, it would not be of much use in this cultivation world where masters were as numerous as the clouds. Needless to say, the former was useless. After all, the so-called cultivators could only work for others here. As for the old guys from the cultivation sect, he hoped that they could be sent to a safer place. As for the ghost cultivation sect, it did not matter. Anyway, they were a scourge as long as they were alive, and their lives had nothing to do with him. At this moment, Hongzhu also thought the same thing as Xiaoqin. He walked to Xiaoqin's side with a worried face and grasped his hand tightly. Although she liked freedom and wasn't too fond of the Hong family and the Song family, she didn't want to see any accidents happen to them as the family and sect she belonged to. The Immortal Cultivator Parliament was created by a few highly respected and mysterious figures in ancient times. As a supervisory existence, it is usually responsible for releasing news about cultivators. Furthermore, it has a branch in every county. Usually, it will also issue suitable trial missions to cultivators from time to time. Qin Shengling explained in as much detail as possible. After listening to Qin Shengling's introduction, Xiaoqin felt that the cultivators sect was similar to the warriors guild in the secular world. They were both used to issue news and tasks, and were also responsible for managing the order of the entire world of cultivators. It was just that the intensity of management was not very strong. After listening to Qin Shengling's introduction, Xiaoqin felt that the cultivators sect was similar to the warriors guild in the secular world. They were both used to issue news and tasks, and were also responsible for managing the order of the entire world of cultivators. It was just that the intensity of this management was not very strong. Qin Shengling shook his head and said with a bitter smile, this old man is not very clear about this. Our Qin family is only a family in a remote town. With our connections, we have not been able to find out such high-level news. I'm really sorry. What bullshit sect is this? Last month, our Qin family had a batch of goods robbed in Luxian Prefecture, and 3 experts in the building foundation stage were killed. If it was not for my father's great fortune, I am afraid that even he would have been left there. Qin Taotian suddenly cursed with a face full of anger. In the end, we reported this matter to the cultivators sect, but they did not even say a word and directly left it unsettled. Taotian, be careful with your words and actions. Hearing Qin Taotian's words, Qin Shengling's expression immediately tensed up. He scolded Qin Taotian first, then got up and flashed to the door. He looked around outside the door and found that no one was nearby, so he quickly closed the door. After walking back, Qin Shengling's eyes widened and he sternly lectured Qin Taotian. You can say such things casually at home. We can pretend that we did not hear it, but don't be stupid outside. The cultivators sect is extremely powerful. The entire world of cultivators is filled with their eyes and ears. If it is heard by someone with ulterior motives and spread to them, our Qin family may be destroyed in an instant. Oh, I know. Qin Taoyuan's face fell and he replied with his head drooped. In his heart he thought, grandfather is too careful. There are no outsiders here and exalted immortal Xiao has just arrived. It is obvious that he will not betray the Qin family. What is there to worry about? Xiao Chen was a little surprised by Qin Xingling's cautiousness, but he did not say much. Instead, he turned to look at Qin Taotian and asked, "How is your father's injury now? After all, I have studied medicine for a few years. If there is anything you need help with, just let me know." "Thank you for your concern, exalted immortal Xiao. After being nursed by the family doctor, my father is basically fine now. He only needs to rest for a period of time, and he will recover to his original state." Qin Taotian was slightly stunned and quickly replied. He did not expect that a dignified exalted immortal like Xiao Chen would actually care about his father and offer to help treat his father. His good impression of this exalted immortal increased a little. "Exalted immortal Xiao, it is getting late. If you do not mind, why don't you stay at our Qin family for the night? I will ask someone to prepare a banquet and clean up a room. What do you think?" Qin Shengling asked respectfully from the side with a face full of smiles. Qin Shengling planned to make Xiao Chen stay and befriend him for a period of time. Then he would try to see if he could rope him in. "There is no need for a banquet. Just a simple meal will do. Otherwise it will be too troublesome for you." Xiao Chen waved his hand and declined. "It is not troublesome. Why would it be troublesome?" The smile on Qin Xingling's face became even wider. He invited politely, "Exalted immortal Zhao's willingness to stay at our house has already brought light to our humble dwelling. A banquet is a small token of our sincerity. I hope that exalted immortal can do us the honor." "All right, then I will have to trouble old Master Qin." Xiao Chen was just being modest. Seeing that Qin Shengling was so insistent, he did not say anything else. Chapter 1334. Just as Qin Shengling was about to say something, Xiao Chen suddenly thought of something and said, "That's right, there's something I'd like to trouble old Patriarch Qin with. Previously, when we arrived at the immortal cultivation world, we accidentally got separated from a few of our companions. Because we're unfamiliar with this place, we'd like you to help us find out if there have been any strangers in Yanlin town recently. Do you think?" "No problem, this is not a problem at all. Although our Qin family is not as powerful as the Zhao family, it is not a problem to find a few people." Before Xiao Chen finished speaking, Qin Shengling had already understood what he meant and immediately agreed. From Qin Shengling's point of view, being able to work for Xiao Chen was a great honor. He immediately found a servant and gave a few instructions. Then he specially instructed that they shouldn't limit themselves to Yanlin town, and that they could also search the few nearby towns. Seeing this, Xiao Chen also described the appearances of Yu Xiaochuan and Cheng Menjing to others. Now he could only hope that these people had not been spread too far. If they could not be found in Yanlin town, there might be some clues in the nearby towns. During the banquet, Xiao Chen chatted with Qin Shengling and learned that the immortal cultivation world used spirit crystals as the universal currency. To put it bluntly, spirit crystals were the advanced evolved version of the spirit jade that had been polished and forged in the inner martial arts world. Spirit crystals could be used as currency in the immortal cultivation world, and could also be used to absorb cultivation like spirit jade. However, most people would not be so extravagant. After all, the value of spirit crystals as currency was much higher than absorbing cultivation. Spirit crystals were the same as spirit jade. There were mines everywhere that needed to be mined, but these mines were basically in the hands of large families and sections. Apart from them, other people did not have so many sources of spirit crystals at all. Some ordinary families might work hard for a year and only earn a few dozen spirit crystals, which was enough for the family's expenses for a year. Just as Xiao Chen and Qin Shengling were chatting and exchanging cups, there was a group of people holding torches in the bushes in the outskirts of Yanlin town that were half the height of a person, carefully searching for something. The leader was a guy who looked like a young master. Behind him stood a big man with a full beard. At this time, the big man's expression was a little unhappy. From time to time, he would shake his legs and yell at his men who were searching around. Obviously, he was very impatient. "Young Master Zhao, can you first tell me what mission you sent my senior brother to carry out?" The big man with a full beard seemed to finally be unable to bear it. He asked with a little anger. "He has been out for a long time, and there is no reply through the sound-transmitting amulet. Now we can't find him. Is there any danger? How? How is that possible? Zhao Wendeng said with an embarrassed expression. Actually, it's not a big deal. I just met a particularly arrogant guy outside today. Not only did he kill Senior Feng with one punch, but he also deliberately made a fool of me in public. So I wanted Guardian Jiang to teach that kid a lesson for me. I originally thought it was a very simple matter, but I didn't expect him to be gone for so long and not come back. I don't know what happened. What? I remember that old thing with the surname Feng is at least at the first level of the Foundation establishment stage, right? How could he be killed with one punch? Is the opponent very strong? The big man with a full beard was stunned and asked with some doubt. It was reasonable to say that in a small and run-down place like Yanlin Town, there were usually very few experts. Because this was only a border town, there were no heavenly treasures to be excavated, and there were no spirit crystal mines worth mining. Therefore, ordinary high-level cultivators did not like to come here. Foundation establishment stage was already a very awesome existence in this place. I didn't see that kid's strength clearly, but according to my estimation he's at most at the 5th or 6th level of the Foundation establishment stage. Zhao Wendeng touched his nose and said vaguely, if Guardian Jiang wants to deal with him, then it's like picking a snail with 3 fingers. It's in the bag. Seeing that the big man with a full beard was deep in thought, Zhao Wendeng did not want to mention his own embarrassing matter. He turned around and shouted at the servants, "You bunch of trash, hurry up and find him. Or else I... Young Master Zhao, things are bad." Just as Zhao Wendeng was about to get angry, a servant suddenly ran over from not far away. The expression on his face was very frightened and horrified, as if he had seen a ghost. Motherf asterisk her. Zhao Wendeng frowned when he saw the man's reaction. He lifted his leg and kicked him to the ground. He scolded fiercely, "I'm just asking you to find someone. Why are you so flustered? You can't even do such a small thing, you're all F asterisk king trash." No, young Master Zhao, please listen to my explanation. The servant didn't dare to rub his leg after being kicked. He covered the place where he was kicked, pointed in a certain direction and said while panting, "We found Guardian Jiang, but Guardian Jiang has been beaten to death. The body is under a big tree not far ahead. Go and take a look." "What did you say? He's dead?" Zhao Wendeng was stunned by the servant's report. It took him a long time to recover, and he immediately rushed in the direction the servant pointed. His heart was full of uneasiness and anxiety. One had to know that Guardian Jiang was an expert at the peak of the Foundation establishment stage. Among the family's guards, apart from the Gold Core stage consecrator, Guardian Jiang's strength was the highest. He didn't expect that he would be killed. Who was the one who did it? When the big man with a full beard heard this, his whole body trembled. He took 2 steps back in disbelief, and immediately followed behind Zhao Wendeng, rushing to the scene of the incident with a face full of anger. After walking for a short distance, Zhao Wendeng found that a few big trees in front of him had been snapped in half. There was another tree that had been smashed into the ground. The scene looked very frightening. And under that tree there was a man in red sitting facing the sky. His hands were hanging powerlessly on the ground, his face was ashen, and his eyes were looking in front of him with fear and listlessness. The ribs in his chest had collapsed severely, almost forming a large hole. Other than that, there were no other injuries on his body. It was obvious that he had been smashed to death by a punch. "Senior Brother Jiang." The big man with a full beard shouted, his voice full of grief. Then he knelt in front of the man in red. His eyes were red as he looked at the cold corpse in front of him, and he heavily punched the ground. It turned out that this big man was the junior brother of the man in red. The 2 of them were originally cultivators invited by the Zhao family to protect the family. Usually they were treated as distinguished guests in the Zhao family and were used to living like princes. Usually they bullied the weak and ate well. They were very free and unfettered. They didn't expect that their senior brother would meet such a disaster today. Chapter 1335. The big man took a few deep breaths, then turned to stare at the servant who found the body and shouted, Who was it that killed my senior brother? Hurry up and tell me the truth. Otherwise I will tear you apart." "I don't know either. When I found Guardian Jiang just now he was already dead." The servant was trembling in fear as he bowed and answered carefully. "Guardian Zhu, don't be too sad." Zhao Wendeng, who was standing on the side, tried to persuade him. "As the saying goes, the dead can't come back to life. I think we should let Guardian Jiang rest in peace first, then we can find the murderer. What do you think? Zhao Wending's expression was not good either, but he did not lose his mind like Guardian Zhu. After all, there were many people in the cultivation world who could kill the man in red in one move. They didn't even know who killed the man in red. If they rashly looked for trouble, it was very likely that they would offend some forces that even the Zhao family could not afford to offend. However, before Zhao Wending could finish speaking, Guardian Zhu gritted his teeth and interrupted him. "Bury my ass. My senior brother died for no reason. Are we just going to let it go?" Climbing up from the ground, Guardian Zhu stared at Zhao Wending and said coldly, "Zhao, just tell me whether your Zhao family will do anything about it or not. If you don't, then I will immediately bring my senior brother's body back to the sect and let our sect leader make a decision." This. Zhao Wending was immediately put in a difficult position. Although the sect that Protector Zhang and Protector Zhu belonged to was not considered a famous sect, with the Zhao clan's strength, they still could not afford to offend them. If Protector Zhu sent the corpses back, the Zhao clan would definitely be greatly implicated if that sect leader came over in grief and anger. After pondering for a moment, Zhao Wending gritted his teeth and said, "Guardian Zhu, how about this? Let's first send Guardian Zhang's body back to the Zhao family for a proper burial. It's not appropriate to just leave it here. Then I will immediately ask someone to find relevant clues. When there is concrete information, we can make specific plans. What do you think?" "Okay. Then we'll do as you say." Guardian Zhu saw that Zhao Wending was quite sincere, so he didn't say anything more. He nodded and bent over to pick up the cold corpse of the red-clothed man. He turned around and strode in the direction of the Zhao clan. After all, his sect was quite a distance away from Swallow Forest town. If he really wanted to bring the corpse back to complain to the sect master, then it would take too much time. If there were any clues, it might be lost by then. Since the Zhao family had the attitude of being willing to deal with this matter, then let's see their actions first. Seeing that Protector Zhu agreed, Zhao Wending didn't dare to delay. He quickly ordered the servants who were still searching to go back and collect relevant information. He was not willing to have such a corpse displayed in the Zhao family's residence. If this were to spread out, the Zhao family would not need to continue mingling in Swallow Forest town anymore either. On the way back, Zhao Wending repeatedly pondered over the entire process of the matter. A familiar figure faintly appeared in his mind. It was that pretentious brat he had met at the restaurant today. After all, Guardian Zhang was sent by him to teach that brat a lesson. If he inferred according to this clue, then when Guardian Zhang encountered that fellow, due to his lack of strength, he was directly smashed to death with one punch. Then that person escaped without a trace, leaving only Guardian Zhang's corpse that died with everlasting grievances. But no matter how Zhao Wending thought about it, he still felt that it was impossible for that brat to have such profound strength. If he could even kill Guardian Zhang, who was at the great circle of the Foundation establishment stage, then when he was teasing his woman, why did he only think of leaving at the beginning, and not fly into a rage on the spot and kill him? One had to know that high-level cultivators in the cultivation world all had their own pride. They absolutely wouldn't allow others to humiliate them or the people around them. Otherwise they would annihilate your entire family at any moment. And that brat didn't look like that kind of person no matter how one looked at him. If it wasn't that guy who made a move, then who was it? Zhao Wending pondered for a while again. In Yinlin town, the only family that could contend with his own family and dare to kill off the Zhao family's Guardian Zhang was the Qin family. Could it be that the Qin family's people were playing tricks in the dark? But how did the Qin family know that Guardian Zhang had gone out to teach that brat a lesson? And they even specifically sent people to that place to intercept and kill him? This didn't seem to make sense. After thinking left and right for a long time, Zhao Wending still couldn't find any clues. Fortunately, when he returned home and returned to Yinlin town to enter the Zhao family's house, all the intelligence gathered by the servants had already been placed on his desk by relying on the Zhao family's powerful network of connections. Zhao Wending first found a place to preserve Guardian Zhang's corpse, placated Guardian Zhu's emotions, and promised to immediately start the investigation. Then, he warned the other servants not to spread the news, and only then did he return to the study. Sitting in front of the desk, Zhao Wending picked up the intelligence gathered by the servants. First, he filtered out some trivial matters that were obviously unrelated, and then removed the gossip of the neighbors. After flipping through for a long time, he finally focused his gaze on two clues. One of them was precisely the intelligence gathered from the restaurant he went to in the afternoon. According to the information the servants got from the waiter, after he left today, Qin Taotian treated that pair of immortal cultivators and Dao companions to a meal on the second floor. When the waiter entered to deliver the dishes, he just happened to hear that immortal cultivator introduce himself as Xiao Chang, and that woman's surname was Hong. However, the waiter didn't know what exactly the two parties talked about during the meal. In the waiter's impression, after they finished the meal, the immortal cultivators bid farewell to Qin Taotian and left the restaurant. Qin Taotian seemed to have left after a while, and the two groups of people seemed to have gone in different directions. There was only so much content in this clue. The other piece of intelligence was sent back by the Zhao family's undercover agent in the Qin family. It was said that the Qin family welcomed back an expert with great fanfare today. Not only did the Qin family's patriarch, Qin Shengling, hold a banquet to welcome him, but he also seemed to treat him as an honored guest. It seemed that he valued this person very much. However, because the undercover agent was only a servant on the periphery of the Qin family, this rumor was only spread by the servants in the inner court. He didn't know much about the details and he couldn't find out more information. Therefore, the content of this clue was limited to just a few words. Staring at the two collected clues in front of him, Zhao Wendeng thought hard for a long time, but he still couldn't think of any connection between these two matters and Guardian Zhang's death. He could only stop helplessly. Zhao Wendeng planned to gather all the stewards of the Zhao family tomorrow morning and have a meeting to discuss it. Perhaps with more people, the sparks in their minds would collide, and they would be able to think of a connection. Chapter 1336. In the Qin family's rear garden, in a brightly lit room, Hongzhu and Xiaochen had already finished their dinner and were leisurely resting in the room. Hongzhu was looking at the lantern in boredom when she suddenly recalled the question that had been lingering in her mind for the entire afternoon. Now that the two of them were finally alone, she lazily asked, "Little brother Xiaochen, big sister has something to ask you. I'll say it in advance, but this time, you're not allowed to find any other excuses to evade me." "What is it? Ask away." Xiaochen, who was in the middle of washing up, casually replied. Hongzhu cleared her throat and said, "Ever since I entered the cultivation world, I've noticed something. You don't seem to be unfamiliar with cultivators at all, and you don't seem to be surprised by the division of strength in this world. Even when dealing with those cultivators, you're still able to handle them with ease. About this, shouldn't you explain the reason to me?" Hongzhu's beautiful eyes were tightly fixed on Xiaochen. Although her tone was very calm, her tightly clenched fists betrayed the nervousness in her heart. "Oh, the reason is also very simple. It's because I'm a standard cultivator. With your intelligence, can't you see it?" After washing up, Xiaochen turned around and sat down at the table. He casually picked up an apple and ate it, then spoke without batting an eyelid. Since Hongzhu had already seen some clues, Xiaochen didn't want to hide it anymore. In any case, this was something she would find out sooner or later, so there was no harm in telling her now, lest she kept doubting him. "What? Is that true?" Hongzhu blinked and asked doubtfully. Although she was already mentally prepared, she still couldn't quite believe it when she heard Xiaochen personally admit it. Xiaochen took a bite of the apple and answered vaguely as he chewed. "Absolutely genuine. I'm not deceiving anyone." Hongzhu frowned and thought for a while. Suddenly, a dusty past appeared in her mind. She slapped her forehead and pointed at Xiaochen with sudden realization. "That's right, I remember now. No wonder when you were in the secular world, you always went to Little Hong's pharmacy to buy some rare and expensive herbs. You did it for the sake of cultivation, right?" "Yes, that's right. At that time, I had just started cultivating, so I needed to borrow the power of medicine to help with my cultivation." Xiaochen did not hide anything and nodded calmly. "What? Are you kidding me? At that time you had only just begun." Hongzhu was taken aback, but he immediately recalled that he had tried to probe Xiaochen at that time. At that time, Xiaochen's strength was indeed not much, and besides having a relatively firm mind, his cultivation was a complete mess. He was nothing more than a weakling. Unexpectedly, in just a few years, Xiaochen had already become an existence that even clans in the cultivation world had to look up to from a beginner cultivator. Wasn't this guy a little too powerful? Speaking of which, I have to thank Pharmacist Chen and Pharmacist Lu in your shop. If it weren't for their generosity, I might still be stuck in the preliminary stage of the immortal cultivator, unable to make a breakthrough." Xiaochen smiled as he recalled his experience in Xiaohong's pharmacy. "You're still talking about it? At that time, it was because you bought those strange medicinal ingredients that Grandpa Chen was very puzzled, so he reported your situation to the higher-ups and had Grandpa Lu come over to probe you. In the end, I didn't expect you to be so weak at that time that you couldn't get anything out of it." Hongzhu curled his lips and snorted. Hongzhu remembered that when Grandpa Chen had first started selling medicine to Xiao Chen, he had reported this situation to Hong Ying's team. However, she had a lot on her hands at that time, so even though she had received the report, she hadn't taken it seriously at all and had tossed it aside. Later, when the news that Xiao Chen had killed her fiancé, Li Shanpao, coupled with the previous news about Grandpa Chen, Hongzhu's curiosity was finally aroused. Thus, she came from the martial world to the secular world and secretly tried to probe Xiao Chen a few times. In the end, she discovered that this guy's strength was ordinary and she could not get anything out of him, so she gradually lost interest. Aside from occasionally doing a few deals with Xiao Chen to earn some pocket money, Hongzhu also began to slowly shift her focus to other areas, handing over Xiao Chen's matters to Medicine Master Lu, who came later. Later, during the summit between the righteous and demonic sects, Xiao Chen once again used the identity of the White Fox to display his extraordinary strength. Only then did Hongzhu completely change her opinion of him, and the two of them could be considered to have crossed paths again. I remember that Medicine Master Lu asked me for a prescription, right? Xiao Chen said with a faint smile, but it seems that there was nothing else after that. It seems that I have taken advantage of your Hong Chamber of Commerce quite a bit. Xiao Chen remembered that Medicine Master Lu had given him a few doses of medicine in exchange for the prescription he had prepared to refine. Medicine Master Lu had also discussed the pharmacology of some of the ingredients in the prescription with him. The two of them had gotten along quite well. Yes, Medicine Master Lu was very interested in your prescription at that time, but after studying it for a long time, he found that he couldn't figure out the right way. In the end, he could only leave it at that. Hongzhu hugged his legs and curled up on the chair, tilting his head as he recalled. As a member of the Inner Martial Arts Cultivation faction, Medicine Master Lu had keenly sensed something unusual when he saw the prescription Xiao Chen had brought. At that time, he suspected that Xiao Chen might have something to do with the world of immortal cultivation. However, when he submitted the report, Hongzhu came down and found nothing unusual. After that, Apothecary Chen's feedback became more frequent. Apothecary Lu's interest was piqued. He went to Little Hong's pharmacy to get in touch with Xiao Chen and obtain the prescription from him. Unfortunately, he couldn't figure out anything from it. After he returned to his family, he didn't continue. Haha, if Apothecary Lu had started studying my first prescription, he might have been able to find some clues. Unfortunately, the prescription he received at that time was after I had cultivated for a while, so it's normal that he couldn't understand it. Under the candlelight, Xiao Chen felt that Hongzhu's tilted head was very charming. His heart was slightly warmed, so he quickly raised his spirits and explained. That's not right. I remember very clearly that among the medicinal materials you bought for the first prescription, except for the bitter fruit, which should be commonly used by primary immortal cultivators, the other medicinal materials were extremely ordinary. At that time, I thought you were a devil cultivator. Hongzhu stared at Xiao Chen in surprise and asked, could it be that your way of cultivation is different from that of ordinary immortal cultivators? Hongzhu thought carefully. Among the medicinal materials Xiao Chen bought, except for the core materials necessary for immortal cultivators, the other medicinal materials could be bought anywhere. Could it be that he could also cultivate in this way? Xiao Chen had actually become a great master through this. What was going on? Chapter 1337. Oh, that's because my cultivation method is a little special, so it's a little different from ordinary cultivators. Xiao Chen raised his brows and said unhurriedly, that's why not only did I level up as fast as a rocket, my strength was also several times stronger than ordinary cultivators. Xiao Chen recalled those difficult days. Although he had to worry about the money for medicine every day and had to think of ways to make money from his business, he was actually quite happy. Tish, you're getting more and more excited as you speak. Hongzhu couldn't help but roll his eyes when he saw Xiao Chen's smug expression. I'm not bragging. Xiao Chen spread his hands innocently and said, just look at how the Qin family is treating me now, and you'll know that I'm telling the truth. Hongzhu was infuriated by Xiao Chen's boastful behavior. He jumped off his chair and ran to him to interrogate, tell me the truth. At that time, I even specially secretly investigated the people of your Xiao clan. You yourself are trash that can't cultivate, and your family members are all ordinary martial cultivators. Even if you go back 8 generations of your ancestors, there hasn't been a single immortal cultivator. Where did you get the immortal cultivation method? That unique cultivation method that's like a rocket, where did you steal it from? Hey, what do you mean I stole it? Do you even know how to talk? Xiao Chen glared at Hongzhu with a very discontented expression and said in a high-spirited manner, This young master's cultivation technique, it really fell from the sky, okay? It just so happened to fall on this young master's head and was picked up by a good-for-nothing like me. My luck is just that good, it's so good that it's bursting. What can I do? In order to match his words, Xiao Qin even flipped his hair and made an expression that said, I'm just that confident. Seeing Xiao Qian's arrogance, Hongzhu couldn't help but gnash his teeth in anger. He bent down and reached out to grab the tender flesh on Xiao Qian's waist, then fiercely twisted it 360 degrees. Don't keep us guessing. Who would believe your nonsense? Do you really think that I'm a naive little girl who's so easily fooled? As Hongzhu pinched him, he snapped, Stop making up stories. Hurry up and tell me the truth. Hiss, ouch ouch ouch. Xiao Qin sucked in a breath of cold air as he was pinched by Hongzhu, a look of pain immediately appearing on his face. After all, without the support of Yuan Qi, his body was not much different from an ordinary person, except for being a little stronger. Although Xiao Qin was already a master of the profound ascending stage, he still trusted Hongzhu very much, so he did not take any precautions. Hongzhu's sudden attack directly succeeded. What do you think? Do you know how powerful I am now? When Hongzhu saw the expression on Xiao Qian's face, his mood became much better. He smiled and said, Why don't you hurry up and say it? Otherwise next time I won't pinch this place but, ha ha ha. Hongzhu glanced at a certain sensitive part of Xiao Qian's body, and a strange evil smile suddenly flitted across his lips. She released the flesh on Xiao Qian's waist, then slowly stretched out her slender jade hand. Cough cough, that's enough, that's enough. As the saying goes, men and women should not touch each other. Don't push your luck. Xiao Qin jumped in fright and hurriedly grabbed Hongzhu's hand to stop her from advancing. Xiao Qin thought that this little witch was usually very tough, and would certainly do what she said. He had never been able to gain any advantage from her hands. If you don't want me to go too far, then you'd better tell me the truth, otherwise, ha ha, you know. Hongzhu saw Xiao Qian's panic and could not help but burst into laughter. She turned around and sat back in her chair, holding her chin and looking at him expectantly. All right, I really don't know what to do with you. Xiao Qin shook his head helplessly, sat up a little straighter, and explained in simple terms, It's like this, I was still in high school in Songning City at the time. One day I was in a bad mood because of some family matters, so I went to a mountain in the suburbs to relax. As a result, I accidentally walked to the edge of a cliff. Following that, Xiao Qin recounted how he had been plotted against, kicked down the cliff, and then coincidentally had a fortuitous encounter. However, Xiao Qin still deliberately concealed the matter of the Elder Heaven ancestor, and instead made up a story, saying that he had coincidentally fallen into a cave halfway up the mountain. Not only was he not injured, but he had also found a cultivation method inside the cave, as well as a pill that could increase one's power. After taking them, he had broken through the barrier that prevented him from cultivating, and successfully advanced to become an immortal cultivator. Later on, he had used the power he had just obtained to smoothly climb out of the cave. After that, he had cultivated according to the cultivation method, as well as purchased the medicinal ingredients to refine the subsequent pills. Only then had he achieved what he had today. Are you serious? Why do I feel that this story of yours sounds a little familiar? Hongzhu looked at Xiao Qin suspiciously, curled his lips and said unhappily, Don't tell me you're using the plot of a web novel to fool this big sister? Why are you so dishonest, child? In any case, I've already told you the truth, it's up to you whether you believe me or not. Xiao Qin shrugged and no longer explained, stood up and stretched his body. Hongzhu still did not believe him and continued to ask, Besides, you were just an ordinary person at the time. Even if there was a cave at the bottom of the cliff, you would have been crippled even if you didn't die from falling from such a high place. How could you be so lucky as to fall into the cave without the slightest injury? Xiao Qin smiled but did not answer. He looked around the room and then walked over to the sofa by the window. As there was only a large bed in the room, although Xiao Qin and Hongzhu were husband and wife on the surface, he did not want to put on an act for the time being, so he decided to simply make do with the sofa for a few days. Then what is your current level of strength? Is it higher than the gold core stage? Seeing that Xiao Qin did not answer, Hongzhu changed the topic and asked. Halfway through his question, he saw Xiao Qin walk over to the sofa, and was immediately stunned. Little brother Xiao Qin, what are you doing? Are you going to sleep on the sofa? Don't we sleep in the same bed at night? Hongzhu was very puzzled by Xiao Qin's behavior. Originally, she thought that she and Xiao Qin would have a further development tonight, but she did not expect that this guy would actually keep a respectful distance from her. Was she really so scary? What's so great about the gold core stage? In short, my cultivation is very high, so you won't understand even if I tell you, and it might even scare you, so don't ask. Xiao Chen chuckled, sat down cross-legged on the sofa, and closed his eyes, preparing to begin cultivating. Hey, wait a moment, you still haven't answered my last question. Seeing that Xiao Chen was really going to sleep on the sofa, Hongzhu immediately became anxious, jumped down from the chair, and ran in front of Xiao Chen. Chapter 1338. Hongzhu leaned close to Xiao Chen's eyes, giggling as she asked, "Why don't you sleep on the bed? It's such a big bed, are you going to let me sleep alone?" Xiao Chen sensed a fragrant orchid scent lingering at the tip of his nose. When he opened his eyes, he found that Hongzhu was right in front of his face, staring at him with wide eyes, almost kissing him. He hurriedly leaned back to put some distance between them, then said with a bitter smile, "Miss Hongzhu, please don't joke with me. You and I aren't really husband and wife, so of course we have to sleep separately. Otherwise, wouldn't that be taking advantage of you?" I didn't think that your thinking would be so traditional." Hongzhu seemed to never tire of teasing Xiao Chen. Leaning on his shoulder, she giggled and coquettishly said, "But I can't sleep alone at night, so what do you think I should do?" "Ahem, that can't be, right?" Xiao Chen took a deep breath, forced himself to calm down and said, "According to what you've said, you've had someone accompany you to sleep every night? It seems that you've been living quite a good life. Look at what you're saying, big sister will never sleep with someone she doesn't like." Hongzhu used her jade-like finger to poke Xiao Chen's nose, pursing her cherry lips and said, "Besides, the Qin family thinks that we're husband and wife. If we don't make some noise at night, they will definitely suspect something, don't you think so? Little brother Xiao Chen." Hongzhu's voice carried a hint of seductiveness, as if there was a soft feather sweeping across one's heart, causing one's heart to itch, as if there was an inexplicable heat rising from that part of one's body. However, Xiao Chen had already experienced it this time, so he continued to maintain a clear mind and calmly retorted, "How could the Qin family be so bored as to lie outside our room and eavesdrop on us instead of sleeping? You're thinking too much, and I'll know whether or not someone is eavesdropping outside, so you don't need to worry." "You." Hongzhu was a little displeased to see that this brat refused to take the bait no matter what. He simply grabbed Xiao Chen's clothes and shook his body as he shouted in a fit of pique, "I don't care, you're going to sleep with me in any case. Otherwise, I won't let you cultivate in peace." Xiao Chen slightly closed his eyes, his body swaying along with Hongzhu's pulling. However, his breathing became long and steady, as if he had entered into a state of cultivation, completely unaffected by Hongzhu. Seeing that Xiao Chen was completely unmoved, Hongzhu loosened his grip in frustration and hatefully glared at him, thinking to himself, "Am I really that unattractive? You don't even have the interest to take another look? Keep pretending. One day you'll suffocate to death." Staring at the unmoving Xiao Chen, Hongzhu's eyes turned and he suddenly thought of another idea. With a smile he suggested, "Little brother Xiao Chen, why don't we dual cultivate? Let's use your cultivation method. Big sister doesn't want to be some low-level cultivator who can only be a laborer in the cultivation world and be looked down upon by others. I also want to cultivate. No matter what, I have to advance to the golden core stage first." Xiao Chen moved slightly and opened his eyes. He stared at Hongzhu and asked, "Are you sure? If you want to cultivate with your current strength, you can only start from the lowest first layer of qi condensation. Although the spiritual energy in the cultivation world is abundant and you don't need to refine pills to help you break through, if you want to advance to the golden core stage or even higher, you can only do it slowly like before. Don't I have you with me?" Hongzhu's eyes curved into crescents as she looked at Xiao Chen with eyes full of trust. "My current cultivation is too low. I can't play any role in the cultivation world, nor can I be of any help to you. If you can help me advance quickly through dual cultivation, Big Sister will definitely become an expert very soon." Xiao Chen had originally considered Hongzhu's suggestion. Because the cultivation methods of devil cultivators, martial cultivators and cultivators, which were also known as immortal cultivators, were different, they were divided into different levels. Therefore, even if Hongzhu was a venerable before, she would not be of any use in this world. At best, she would be a bit stronger and could be used as an excellent laborer. Fortunately, although the cultivation methods of the two were different, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth could be shared. As long as one knew the cultivation method, they could start from the beginning and step into the ranks of cultivators. This was Hongzhu's current situation. If she wanted to become a cultivator, she would have to start from the lowest level, the refinement stage. She would have to slowly accumulate and break through step by step. If she wanted to level up quickly, she would have to resort to dual cultivation. However, Hongzhu had no interest in other men. Now that there were no other girls around, Xiaoqin naturally became the only suitable candidate. Fortunately, the two had already dual cultivated several times before and had seen all the places they should see. Dual cultivation was very logical and did not feel awkward. Upon hearing Hongzhu's suggestion, Xiaoqin pondered for a moment before agreeing to it. After all, Hongzhu's words did make some sense. Now that Cheng Minjing was not by his side, it would be good if he could cultivate another immortal cultivator to help him. Although he did not expect Hongzhu to quickly advance to the profound ascension stage, as long as she had the ability to protect herself, it would be fine. After making up their minds, the two of them went to bed, turned off the lights and began dual cultivation. At first, Hongzhu was a little uncomfortable and could not skillfully control the scarce yuan qi in her body. However, with Xiaoqian's gradual guidance, Hongzhu slowly learned how to circulate the cultivation method and entered a clear state. Xiaoqian let Hongzhu practice the heaven-seizing fortune battle art, which was the normal version given to him by the elder heaven ancestor. Because the cultivation of the heaven-seizing fortune battle art was too unpredictable, Xiaoqian was a little worried, so he chose the safer one. Fortunately, although Hongzhu was only at the first level of the qi condensation stage, she was extremely intelligent and had an outstanding mind. After the initial awkwardness, she had already grasped the essentials and was able to smoothly cultivate. Early the next morning, the Zhao family's meeting room was already gathered with the three elders in charge of the family, as well as Zhao Wendeng and his father. Everyone had been called to prepare for a meeting to discuss the matter of Guardian Zhang's murder and how to deal with it. Now, the first thing we need to confirm is whether Guardian Zhang was killed by Xiao Chang or by the experts sent by the Qin family. Zhao Wendeng's father, Zhao Shimu, glanced at Guardian Zhang's corpse that had been moved to the meeting room and at Guardian Zhu, who had his arms crossed and was silent with a dark expression. I thought about it for a long time last night and have my own opinion. Let everyone hear it. Zhao Wendeng knocked on the table and said his analysis. In my opinion, Guardian Zhang should not have been killed by that brat Xiao Chang. Chapter 1339. Why do you say that? Since Guardian Zhang went to find trouble with Xiao Chang, then it's only natural that he was killed by him. The Great Elder immediately objected. Think about it, Great Elder. If that guy was really so powerful that he could kill an expert at the perfected foundation establishment stage with one punch, then why did he run away before? Zhao Wendeng analyzed logically. Logically speaking, since his cultivation partner was humiliated, he would definitely come to find trouble with our Qin family if he was powerful. In the end, he ran away like a coward. That doesn't match the demeanor of an expert at all. Then according to young Master Zhao, it should be the Qin family that killed Guardian Zhang? The Great Elder stroked his white beard and asked. I think the Qin family must have sent someone to kill Guardian Zhang in order to weaken our Zhao family's strength. Zhao Wendeng nodded his head heavily. The Great Elder shook his head and questioned in disagreement. But young Master Zhao, as far as I know, the strongest person in the Qin family is that old thing Qin Shengling. Currently, his cultivation is only at the perfected foundation establishment stage. How could he beat Guardian Zhang to this state with one move? This doesn't seem logical. TSK, how is it illogical? Do you know why there is a big hole in Guardian Zhang's chest? The second elder glanced at the Great Elder disdainfully and snorted through his nostrils. Of course he was punched heavily in the chest. That's why there is this hole. There are no other wounds on Guardian Zhang's body, which means that this punch was the killer move that killed him. The Great Elder said inexplicably. Wasn't this very obvious? So it's reasonable for the Qin family to attack. The second elder slammed the table and pointed at Guardian Zhang's corpse. Look, his strength is higher than yours and mine. To kill him with one move, it was obvious that the experts of the Qin family first held him down and prevented him from moving. Then he was killed by Qin Xingling's punch in the chest. The second elder is right. As the saying goes, 2 fists are no match for 4 hands, and even a strong man is no match for 3 puddles of water. No matter how powerful Guardian Zhang is, he may not be able to escape unscathed from such a situation. It is inevitable that he will be killed. The third elder nodded repeatedly, echoing the second elder's words. Although the cultivation levels of the 3 elders of the Zhao family were not high, they controlled part of the Zhao family's business and had a considerable say in the Zhao family. Due to the seniority of the Great Elder, the weight and power he held were also relatively greater. Naturally, the second elder and the third elder were not very willing, so they often united against the great elder. Nonsense. We all know the ins and outs of the Qin family. Where did they get so many experts from? Besides, wouldn't guard Jiang take the opportunity to escape if he realized that something was wrong? With his strength at the peak of the Foundation establishment stage, even if he can't fight against everyone, he can always run back. The first elder was so angry that his beard was curled up, and he shouted angrily. He felt that these two people were too good at making up stories. A strong man is no match for 3 puddles of water. What kind of crappy theory was this? If you have a more reasonable explanation, just say it. What's the point of blindly denying others? The second elder did not buy into the first elder's anger at all. He frowned and said coldly, "Elders, let's stop arguing. I still feel that this matter is a little strange." Without waiting for the first elder to refute, Zhao Shimu waved his hand and stopped the heated argument. He turned his head and asked, "Wending, I have something else to ask you." "Father, please ask." Zhao Wending could not do anything about the elders. Seeing that his father had changed the topic, he quickly replied. Zhao Shimu nodded and asked, "Before the meeting started, you said that there was a piece of information yesterday that said a stranger came to the Qin family. Furthermore, Qin Shengling made him a distinguished guest with great fanfare. Who is this guy? Is it possible that he killed Guardian Zhang? It shouldn't be him because I've already found someone to investigate. The so-called distinguished guest is none other than that brat, Xiao Chang." Zhao Wendeng rubbed his nose and said gloomily, "I reckon that Qin Shengling saw that he had some ability and wanted to recruit him to be of use to the Qin family. That's why he was so polite to him." Thinking of Xiao Chang, a haze flashed across Zhao Wending's eyes. He thought that if it wasn't for this brat, the matter would not have become so serious and Guardian Zhang would not have been killed for no reason. "It's Xiao Chang?" Zhao Shimu stood up and paced back and forth. He frowned and asked, "Why do I remember that you said that Xiao Chang left Yanlin town after eating Qin Taoyin's banquet? Why did he run to the Qin family?" At that time, the waiter at the restaurant said that he saw very clearly that Xiao Chang and his cultivation partner left alone. Zhao Wendeng rubbed his chin and suggested his own idea. Could it be that Qin Taotian wanted to rope in Xiao Chang but Xiao Chang did not buy it? Qin Taotian had no choice but to invite his grandfather out and invite Xiao Chang back? That's very possible. Zhao Shimu immediately stood still and analyzed carefully. That brat Qin Taotian must have gone back to invite his grandfather out to chase after Xiao Chang. In the process of chasing after him, he happened to find Guardian Zhang, who was waiting for an opportunity to teach Xiao Chang a lesson. Then he made his move. If that's the case, then it all goes smoothly. The first elder nodded and deduced clearly. If Qin Shengling wanted to invite someone back, he would definitely bring along all the experts in the family to show them his strength. He might even have the intention of threatening them. In the end, he encountered Guardian Zhang. It just so happened that he could settle old and new grudges at the same time, so he took the opportunity to surround and attack him. That's why Guardian Zhang was outnumbered and killed. Damn it. Zhao Wendeng clenched his fist and slammed it on the table. He gritted his teeth and said, "The Qin family is despicable. They bully the few with numbers and have no morals. They are simply shameless. Now that the murderer has been identified, can we go up to them and demand an explanation?" Bodyguard Zhu listened for a long time and finally understood the final conclusion. He immediately asked with a fiendish expression, "Wendeng, just how strong is that Xiao Chang?" Zhao Shimu did not agree to Guardian Zhu's wish immediately. Instead, he asked with a serious expression. After all, he only used one move to kill Senior Phone. In Yanlin town there are not many people who can do that. If we don't understand this person's strength and go to him rashly, it will be very easy for us to be trampled on instead of taking revenge. At this moment, Zhao Shimu's mood was very heavy. Yesterday, the Zhao family had lost 2 Foundation establishment stage experts in a row. Although they were only guards and would not have a great impact on the family, if this news were to spread, it would still be a loss of face. Chapter 1340. I really didn't see it clearly, but I'm guessing that he's at most at the 4th or 5th level of the Foundation establishment stage. Otherwise, he wouldn't have immediately fled after killing someone. Zhao Wendeng said somewhat awkwardly. At that time, he had been completely infatuated with Hongzhu and hadn't paid any attention to Xiao Chen. No matter how capable that person surnamed Xiao is, Since the Qin family doesn't place our Zhao family in their eyes, we will make the Qin family pay the price for killing Guardian Zhang. Second elder said angrily. Second elder is right. Since the Qin family could actually do such a heartless thing, we might as well gather our men and directly exterminate them. Third elder clenched his fist and waved it in the air as he shouted. The first elder didn't immediately declare his position. He was still relatively calm. Before he understood the specific strength of the other party, he definitely wouldn't act rashly or do anything irrational. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to remain safe and sound after holding power for so long. Then should we set off now? Guardian Zhu's face was flushed with excitement from the two elders' declaration of war, and he asked eagerly. Ahem, don't get too excited. Zhao Shimu pressed his hands down and said with a helpless expression, I presume you all know that our Zhao family's golden core cultivator is still in seclusion, exploring the mysteries of breaking through to a higher realm, so we can't act on our own. Let's postpone this matter for now. In any case, it'll only take a few days. It won't be too late to make a decision after he comes out of seclusion. Looking at the disappointed Guardian Zhu, Zhao Shimu sighed inwardly. He felt both angry and amused. These two elders were too impulsive. They didn't consider the consequences of their actions at all. Moreover, there was a blockhead standing guard at the side. After hearing a few words of revenge, he immediately became hot-blooded and wanted to rush out to fight. Since the first elder had already expressed his position, the elders naturally wouldn't have any objections. In any case, they were usually in charge of business. As for the matter of revenge, they would leave it to someone more suitable to handle. Only Protector Zhu didn't get the result he wanted, and he was very unhappy. However, thinking that there would be a master of the gold core stage to help him in a few days, he didn't make any more trouble and chose to wait silently. The Qin clan had been peaceful these past few days. While Xiao Chen was waiting for news from Cheng Menjing and the others, he had been dual cultivating with Hongzhu every day to help her improve her strength. With Xiao Chen a profound ascension stage expert, Hongzhu's cultivation level rose rapidly, and he didn't encounter any obstacles at all. After a few days, although he hadn't been able to directly break through to the gold core stage that Hongzhu had been looking forward to, he had still reached the peak of the foundation establishment stage, and was only a step away from breaking through to the gold core stage. After Hongzhu started cultivating, it was as if she had opened the door to a new world. All day long she would study little things like the water ball technique and the fireball technique. It was very fresh and interesting. At night she would pull Xiao Chen to dual cultivate. The Qin clan thought that this little girl was not satisfied with her needs and was courting the immortals every day. Old Master Qin originally thought that after the Zhao clan found out that their expert at the peak of the foundation establishment stage had been killed, they would run to the Qin clan to find trouble. Therefore he specially waited at home for a few days. However, he was surprised to find that the Zhao clan didn't have any reaction, as if they didn't know about this at all. Qin Shengling also specially went to the suburbs to take a look. The original crime scene now only had messy footprints and broken trees left. The corpse of the expert at the peak of the foundation establishment stage had disappeared. Logically speaking, the Zhao clan should have brought it back. Why didn't they make any movements? Although he was a little puzzled, Qin Shengling naturally wouldn't take the initiative to go and ask them for the reason. Instead, he mobilized all the manpower he could use in the clan and sent them all to the nearby towns to search for the companions that Xiao Chen had mentioned. He wanted to see if they could find any relevant clues. In these few days, the Qin clan had almost turned Yanlin town upside down, but they didn't find any traces of strangers other than Xiao Chen and Hongzhu. After Qin Shengling told this matter to Xiao Chen, he could clearly see the disappointment on his face. Qin Shengling felt very apologetic. He kept feeling that he hadn't served the immortals with all his heart. Therefore he increased his efforts and sent more manpower to search further away. Xiao Chen approved of Qin Shengling's approach. Because he couldn't determine the location of the others, Xiao Chen could only hope that they hadn't been sent too far away. At least, it would be good to have some news in the nearby towns. According to the news that had been sent back, Xiao Chen currently didn't have much hope of directly finding Cheng Menjing and the other women in a short period of time. In his opinion, whether it was the Immortal Cultivation sect or the Ghost Cultivation sect, as long as they could find the people who had been sent over from the inner martial arts world first. Once there were traces and clues, Xiao Chen could determine the specific location of the others according to the distance from where they were sent out. Just as the Qin clan was busy looking for people, the Zhao clan, who had been waiting for the gold core stage consecrated elder to come out of seclusion, was already somewhat impatient. Because it was unknown when it started, the rumor that the Zhao clan had suffered a great loss at the hands of the Qin clan began to quietly spread in Yanlin town. And the more it spread, the more intense it became. Many people saw how Qin Taotian and his men humiliated Zhao Wendeng that day. Zhao Wendeng only dared to make a ruckus, but in the end he left the restaurant with his tail between his legs. As a result, the matter was left unsettled. After waiting curiously for a few days, those people found that the Zhao clan didn't step on them because of this matter, so they began to discuss it secretly. As more and more people knew about it, everyone's eyes were focused on the silent Zhao clan. Because the Zhao clan hadn't gone to the Qin clan to question and take revenge for a long time, Protector Zhu had been drinking wine all day long. After drinking too much, he became talkative and leaked the situation that Protector Zhang was beaten to death by the Qin clan. Through word of mouth, many people who had been bullied by Zhao Wendeng in the past heard of this news. They immediately felt vindicated and were overjoyed. Some people even set off firecrackers to celebrate, claiming that it was to the satisfaction of the people. Not only that, those chambers of commerce who usually cooperated with the Zhao clan after learning the news, also began to secretly plan in their hearts. Should they try to contact the Qin clan and pave the way in advance? Many small merchants were immediately tempted after hearing the news because they had been bullied too hard by the Zhao clan before. Although the current situation was still unclear, a few could not help but take the initiative to talk to the Qin clan about business. Chapter 1341. After all, in the eyes of those merchants, the Zhao clan had already lost 2 foundation establishment experts, but there were no signs of counterattacking the Qin clan at all. Many merchants were judging from this. Could the Zhao clan be on the verge of collapse? For merchants, business was business. Anyway, they were all doing business. If the east wasn't bright, the west was bright. As long as there was profit to be made, wasn't it the same who they cooperated with? As the Zhao clan's gold core consecrator was still in seclusion, the head of the Zhao clan, Zhao Shimu, would definitely not choose to find trouble with the Qin clan at this juncture. Moreover, although the clan had lost some small merchants overall, it didn't affect their business too much. Therefore, although Zhao Shimu had heard of these situations, he still chose to turn a blind eye to it and pretend that it didn't happen. Anyway, when the consecrator came out of seclusion and asked for an explanation, those small merchants would naturally cry and beg to return to the Zhao clan. However, although Zhao Shimu could keep his composure, the young and impetuous Zhao Wendeng couldn't take this lying down. As the dignified young master of the Zhao clan, when he was supposed to go out and flaunt his prowess every day, he had to be pointed at and whispered by the people in Yanlin town behind his back. The key was that he couldn't make a move against those people. He almost died of grievance. Zhao Wendeng, who was unwilling in his heart, pondered over it. He simply brought Protector Zhu and a few of his trusted subordinates, carried Protector Zhang's corpse and went straight to the Qin clan. He was prepared to demand an explanation from them. He had to vent his anger. In Zhao Wendeng's mind, since he couldn't start a full-scale war with the Qin clan for the time being, he planned to first demonstrate and protest to see if he could get some benefits back to compensate for the Zhao clan's losses these days. At the same time, he could use this to suppress the Qin clan and restore the Zhao clan's former prestige. In the Qin clan's guest room, Qin Shengling, Qin Taotian, and Xiao Chen were chatting. Suddenly, a series of hurried footsteps sounded, and a steward stumbled in. "What's going on?" Qin Shengling frowned and scolded unhappily. "Can't you see that there are important guests here? Why are you so flustered?" The steward didn't bother to lower his head and apologize. He panted heavily and said anxiously, "Old master, young master." "Not good." The eldest young master of the Zhao family, Zhao Wendeng, placed a corpse in front of our Qin family's gate. He even clamored for the Qin family to hand over the murderer and compensate us for our mental damages. Now there's a circle of people surrounding us. You two hurry up and come out to take a look. What? Qin Taotian slammed the table angrily. His originally elated face was immediately covered with dark clouds. He gritted his teeth and said, "This Zhao Wendeng has gone too far." It was clearly him who first sent people to find trouble with exalted immortal Xiao. In the end, he actually made a false accusation. Qin Xingling's face didn't look too good. He originally thought that the Zhao family didn't respond for so long because they planned to cover up this matter. He didn't expect that they still came looking for trouble. Qin Taotian stood up abruptly and ordered the butler in a deep voice, "Get all the people in the family who can fight here immediately. Today I'm going to let Zhao Wendeng know what it means to come but never return." Eldest young master, most of the Qin family's manpower has been mobilized to the nearby towns to search. I'm afraid it'll be very difficult to get them back in such a short period of time. The butler had a troubled expression as he carefully reported in a low voice. Right. How could I forget about this? Qin Taotian slapped his forehead. Only then did he remember that because they wanted to help exalted immortal Xiao find someone, they had already sent out most of their people a few days ago. Taking 2 steps toward the door of the guest hall, Qin Taotian snorted coldly. He rolled up his sleeves and said fiercely, "It doesn't matter if there's no one. This is our Qin family's territory. Get all the people we have now. I want to see what kind of tricks Zhao Wendeng can play." "Taotian, there's no need to do this." Xiao Qin suddenly spoke up and stopped Qin Taotian's actions. He said lightly, "Since that brat Zhao Wendeng likes to cry outside the Qin family's gate, let him be. There's no need to pay attention to him. Anyway, it won't affect us at all. It will only make the people in the town look down on him even more." Xiao Qin's expression was very calm. It was impossible to tell that he was angered at all. He had seen this kind of low-level provocation many times. Naturally, he would not take it to heart. What exalted immortal Xiao said makes sense. The immortal cultivation world has always believed that only those with strength have the right to speak. The people from the Zhao family were not capable and were killed by exalted immortal Xiao. Now, they actually have the cheek to come over and ask for compensation. Isn't this slapping their own faces? "Taotian, there's no need to pay attention to him." After hearing what Xiao Qin said, Qin Shengling instantly understood and nodded in agreement. "But Grandpa, although that's true, it's so depressing to always have a corpse outside our door." Qin Taotian gritted his teeth and objected with a face full of hatred. "The Zhao family is riding all over our noses now. We can't pretend not to see it, can we? It'll be so embarrassing if word gets out. People will think that we're too cowardly." After all, Qin Taotian was still young and full of vigor. When provoked, he would be overwhelmed by anger. He was not as calm and steady as Xiao Qin and Qin Shengling. "Oh, about this." Xiao Qin rolled his eyes and the corners of his mouth curled into a sly smile. He said slowly, "Since we have nothing else to do right now and we're idle anyway, let's go and tease him. How about this, you go and find a few people first." Next, Xiao Qin explained the plan that he had just thought of to prank Zhao Wendeng unhurriedly. "Ah, exalted immortal Xiao, you're really too smart." Qin Taotian was amused by Xiao Qin's plan. He patted his chest and said, "Leave this matter to me. I'll get people to prepare immediately. Just wait and watch the show." After taking charge of the matter, Qin Taotian excitedly sent out his butler and impatiently asked him to find a group of servants. Then he gave them a series of instructions and specially instructed them in every detail before assigning the task. At this time, it was already very lively outside the Qin family's door. Not only did Zhao Wendeng deliberately get people to carry the corpse to block the door, but he also specially made a few banners for his subordinates to hold up as a demonstration. The bystanders squinted and saw that the white banners were written with blood-red words such as "bullying with numbers" and "a life for a life." It really looked like that was the case. The Qin family's door was already surrounded by curious citizens. Everyone whispered to each other and discussed how the Qin family would end this time. Even many presidents of the Chamber of Commerce ran over and sneaked into the crowd to watch the show. At the same time, they wanted to assess whether the Qin family really had enough power to turn this passive situation around. Chapter 1342. Young Master Zhao, we've made a big deal out of this, but the people of the Qin family can still keep their composure. What do you think is going on? Are they so scared that they don't dare to come out? Staring at the closed door, Protector Zhu frowned and stood next to Zhao Wendeng as he asked in a low voice. "It's very likely." Zhao Wendeng nodded in agreement. Looking at the silent Qin family, he snorted and said, "I guess they are now having a meeting to discuss countermeasures. Maybe they are already collecting spirit crystals to compensate us. After all, our Zhao family is so powerful. It is easy for us to annex the Qin family. It is the right choice for them to admit defeat." Having said that, Zhao Wendeng began to get impatient after waiting outside the door for a long time. Feeling Zhao Wendeng's anxiety, Protector Zhu rolled his eyes and said with a murderous look, "Young Master Zhao, I think we should just break in and confront the Qin family. Otherwise, God knows when we will have to wait. If we rush in like this, we can give the Qin family a show of strength. What do you think?" "Absolutely not." Zhao Wendang immediately rejected Protector Zhu's proposal and warned him seriously, "Don't think about doing such a stupid thing. The old man of the Qin family is now at the peak of the foundation establishment stage. If we rush in rashly, it will definitely be more disadvantageous for us. Besides, the main purpose of coming here today is to ask for compensation. Unless it is a last resort." Woo woo woo. Before Zhao Wendang could finish his words, he suddenly heard a commotion from outside the crowd, and it was mixed with mournful cries. He immediately stopped in confusion. Turning his head, Zhao Wendang was surprised to find that the crowd not far away had been separated, and a group of people in mourning clothes walked in from outside the crowd. The leader of the group was holding a black and white photo of his father. The people standing next to him were throwing paper money into the air and wailing and crying from time to time. In addition, there were a few people carrying a stretcher with an old sow lying on it. The group of people walked toward Zhao Wending's group in a mighty manner. Protector Zhu also noticed the people coming. After seeing the people in the photo, he couldn't help but be dumbfounded. He thought, what's going on? Could it be that the Qin family saw me standing in front of their door, so they were angry and went to kill Zhao Shimu? That's not right either. Those mourners looked unfamiliar and did not look like they were from the Zhao family. He had never seen them before. What the hell was going on? Young patriarch, you died so miserably. The man holding the portrait walked to the gate of the Qin clan with a solemn expression. Suddenly, he burst into tears and shouted at the top of his voice. F***CK, what are you guys doing? My father is alive and well. How could he die from vomiting blood? Zhao Wendang was shocked. His father was dead? How could this be? He didn't even know this guy who was holding the portrait. Where did he come from? The man ignored Zhao Wendang and continued to cry at the Qin family's gate. Qin family, you're all despicable. Not only did you kill the Zhao family's guards for no reason, but you also angered our young master Zhao Shimu so much that he vomited blood and died. Even the Zhao family's sow that was about to give birth was scared to death by you. You are simply heartless. Unforgivable. Don't talk nonsense over there. How could our Zhao family raise pigs? Who the hell are you? Seeing that the man ignored him, Zhao Wendang was so angry that he stomped his feet and roared loudly. This group of people were obviously not from the Zhao family, but they dared to curse his father in front of so many people. They even brought out a dead pig to swindle people. Could it be that they were tired of living? Young Master Zhao, why don't you recognize me? I'm Little Six. Before Zhao Wendang could finish speaking, the man holding the portrait suddenly rolled his eyes and knelt on the ground with a plop. He hugged Zhao Wending's thigh and shouted with a sorrowful face. What Little Six? I don't. Zhao Wendang quickly went through his mind. He didn't remember that there was such a servant in his family. He was about to deny it when he was interrupted by this guy again. Just this morning, when you brought people to the Qin family to ask for an explanation, the more the young patriarch thought about it, the angrier he became. He shouted, "You've gone too far," and then vomited a mouthful of blood and died. The man who called himself Little Six cried loudly. Such a vivid description was so vivid that even Zhao Wendang was stunned for a moment. After a little hesitation, he was about to deny it. This can't. Young Master Zhao, you don't know. Xiaoluzi once again interrupted Zhao Wending's words and let go of his thigh. He pointed at the sow with one hand and pounded the ground with the other. He cried bitterly, "Even our family's old sow was frightened to death because of young Master's death." Guard Zhu, who was standing next to Zhao Wendang, was already in a dull state at this time. His limited brain capacity really couldn't accept such a large amount of information. He was struggling to digest everything that Little Six had said. More and more people gathered around. They pointed at Zhao Wendang and his group and whispered to each other. What Little Six said was spread out in an instant. Everyone had different expressions. Some were very interested in gossip, and some were shocked and found it hard to accept. They thought that Zhao Shimu was too weak. He let someone kill a guard, but he was so angry that he vomited blood and died? Little Six was still crying and shouting, "This old sow is the only source of income of our Zhao family. I originally wanted to wait for it to give birth to a baby to support the family, but I didn't expect it to die just like that. Young Master Zhao, you must uphold justice for it." Bullsh***T. Zhao Wendang was completely furious at this time. He kicked Little Six hard and made him tumble. Then he shouted, "Our Zhao family is a big family. How can we be reduced to relying on the old sow to give birth to a baby?" Hearing Zhao Wendang's words, the surrounding commoners felt that what Zhao Wendang said made sense. However, this Little Six was crying and throwing a tantrum. The people behind him also looked sorrowful. No matter how they looked at it, it didn't seem fake. Zhao Wendeng scolded. Suddenly, an idea came to his mind. He pointed at little Six, who was struggling to get up, and scolded, Uf*Ker were invited by the Qin family to deliberately discredit our Zhao family, right? I just wanted some compensation. Since the Qin family doesn't know how to appreciate favors, don't blame me for being rude to you. The people, who were confused at first, suddenly burst into an uproar. Adhering to the principle of watching the fun, everyone began to discuss in a low voice. Chapter 1343. Some of the commoners agreed with Zhao Wendeng's point of view and felt that the Qin family must have sent people to do this on purpose. Some people thought that this matter should be true. Zhao Shimu was definitely dead. It was just that Zhao Wendeng refused to believe it and was stubbornly standing here. But no matter which view was supported, the people's view of the Zhao family still did not change at all. Normally, the Zhao family relied on their great family business to run amok in Swallow Forest Town, bullying the weak and small, serving them right to die. They couldn't wait for a few more people from the Zhao family to die. Hearing the commoners' discussion, Zhao Wendeng became even angrier. He glared at Xiaolu and began to roll up his sleeves, preparing to rush up and beat him up first. Young Master Zhao, calm down first. Guardian Zhu, whose brain short-circuited, saw that Zhao Wendeng had lost his mind due to anger and was about to hit someone. He finally came to his senses and hurriedly stopped him. He warned in a low voice, there are too many irrelevant people here. It's not convenient to attack them directly. Moreover, we are in the wrong now. Let's see what happens first. Zhao Wendeng panted heavily. He also knew that what Guardian Zhu said made sense. No matter how arrogant and despotic he was, he couldn't directly attack in front of everyone. Otherwise, the damage to the Zhao family's reputation would be too great. He could only clench his teeth, clench his fists, and endure with reddened eyes. Clang. Just as Zhao Wendeng was about to calm down, the sound of glass breaking suddenly came. Zhao Wendeng heard the sound and looked over. The anger that he had just calmed down immediately rushed to the top of his head again. He saw that after Xiaolu stood up with the help of his companions, he actually swung his hand and smashed Zhao Shimu's portrait into pieces. Zhao Wendeng was furious. Smashing his father's portrait in front of him, no matter who it was, they couldn't tolerate that, right? He was about to rush over and attack, but Xiaolu rushed over first. He pointed at his nose and shouted angrily, "Surname Zhao. Is there something wrong with you? It was you who asked us to help you put on this show to cheat the Qin family of a sum of spirit crystals. We already agreed on a price and now you actually turn against us? What do you mean by this? Do you think we are easy to bully?" *CK. What the hell are you talking about? Zhao Wendeng flew into a rage and roared, "Today the son of the Elder Heaven Ancestor came to the Qin family because they killed Guardian Zhang of the Zhao family. How dare you accuse them? Who invited you here? Stop farting over there." Zhao Wendeng was so angry with this little Six that he gnashed his teeth. If it weren't for the fact that there were too many people around and he couldn't do anything too out of line, he would have long killed this guy with a single palm strike. "Fellow villagers, come and judge for me." Xiaoluzi ignored Zhao Wendeng again. He turned to the onlookers and protested loudly, "The guards of the Zhao family are not dead at all. They are only slightly injured." However, Zhao Wendeng wanted to cheat the Qin family. Not only did he come to the Qin family to put on a corpse, but he also invited us to put on this show. However, he didn't expect that when we came here with the sow and the photo, he would turn against us. Do you think he still has any humanity left? I see. I knew that this was a conspiracy of the Zhao family. They are so powerful. How could the Qin family bully them? Do they really think we are fools? That's right. Zhao Wendeng is too despicable. He actually came up with such a trick to frame the Qin family. He is so hateful. I suspected that there was something wrong with the Qin family just now. Turns out that I misunderstood them. The Zhao family is the most shameless family. The Zhao family is usually rude and unreasonable. They will never be bullied by others. I guess that this would be the case. They actually made use of the fake dead to make a fortune. They are simply insane. After hearing Xiaoluzi's accusation, the crowd suddenly became restless. Many people took the lead in condemning loudly, pointing the spearhead at the Zhao family. It seemed that they had completely believed what Xiaoluzi said. Of course, these people were arranged by Xiao Qian in advance. They secretly stood in the crowd. The purpose was to create some momentum and focus the people's attention on the Zhao family. With the power of the crowd, the Zhao family's reputation would be tarnished. Sure enough, the onlookers were quickly incited. They cast a contemptuous look at Zhao Wendeng. Many people even joined the ranks of cursing, accusing the Zhao family of such despicable behavior. Anyway, everyone was in the crowd now. No one could see who was cursing. Some people who had been bullied by the Zhao family took the opportunity to vent their resentment. Even those merchants who had a close relationship with the Zhao family shook their heads after seeing this scene. They sighed helplessly and turned to leave. After today's incident, they had basically decided to rely on the Qin family. After all, the power of the people was the most powerful. As a businessman, the most important thing was reputation. If the reputation was good, people would naturally come to buy. If the reputation was bad, it would not be long before no one came. Now that the Zhao family had become the target of public criticism, these merchants naturally avoided them. If the people knew that they were involved with the Zhao family, their business would be greatly affected. Good. Zhao Wendeng was so angry that he didn't know what to say. He could only widen his eyes and say good a few times. Then he clenched his fists and turned around to roar, "Guardian Zhu, since these wicked people don't believe this young master's words, then let them see whether Guardian Zhang is injured or dead." How do I see this? Hearing Zhao Wendeng's order, Guardian Zhu was dumbfounded. Do I have to stab senior brother a few more times to prove that he will not move when he is dead? Idiot. Remove the cloth covering the body. Zhao Wendeng was already sullen. This time he was so angry that he almost suffered an internal injury. Young Master Zhao, this is not very good, right? Guardian Zhu's expression was a little ugly. He shook his head and refused. My senior brother is already dead. As the saying goes, the dead are the most important. How can you do such a disrespectful thing to the dead? Please forgive this subordinate for not being able to do it. Protector Zhu and Protector Zhang were originally fellow disciples of the same sect, and their relationship had always been good. This time, Protector Zhang was killed for no reason, and he had personally verified Protector Zhang's death, so it was absolutely impossible for him to let Zhao Wendeng do as he pleased. Even you are going against this young master. Zhao Wendeng glared at Guardian Zhu fiercely. He did not care about reprimanding him and walked directly to Guardian Zhang's body. He said hatefully, "I don't believe it today. Since you are not willing to remove the cloth, then this young master will do it myself." Chapter 1344. Zhao Wendeng strode to the side of the corpse and pushed aside bodyguard Zhu, who was in front of him. Then he reached out and prepared to lift the white cloth that covered the corpse. With a whoosh sound before Zhao Wendeng's hand could touch the white cloth, the corpse lying on the stretcher suddenly sat up. It lifted the white cloth on its body and stared blankly in front of it. What the F***ck? The corpse actually came back to life. Zhao Wendeng was the closest, so he was instantly shocked. He staggered and his upper body lost its center of gravity. He fell backward and sat on the ground. His hand trembled as he pointed at Guardian Zhang's corpse, and his entire body shivered. The crowd was instantly in an uproar. Many people were so scared that their faces turned pale, and they quickly retreated. After all, such a person with a pale face and bloodstains all over his body suddenly sat up from under the white cloth. Anyone would be shocked. Bodyguard Zhu was also quite frightened, but he was not as disheveled as Zhao Wendeng. He only retreated a few steps, then stared at the big hole in Bodyguard Zhang's chest, and asked in a trembling voice, "Senior, Brother Jianghu, how did you come back to life? Did I see wrongly? You really didn't die? But that's not right. You've suffered such serious injuries, how can you still be alive? Stop fooling around." Bodyguard Zhang, who was sitting there, had an unchanged expression. He stared straight ahead and said, "I've already been lying there for so long, and I can't be bothered to pretend to be dead anymore. You guys should hurry up and carry me back. I don't want to stay here and embarrass myself anymore. Anyway, whether the Qin family pays for the spirit crystals or not has nothing to do with me. I've been lying there for so long, and my waist is about to break." Although he said a long paragraph, anyone who paid attention would notice that Bodyguard Zhang's voice did not have the slightest hint of emotion. Not only did it sound cold, but it was also a little unclear. Everyone saw it clearly, right? Just as Bodyguard Zhang finished speaking, Xiaoyou's voice sounded again, and he said with a slight tremble, "Am I right? That person really didn't die. Even he said that he was only pretending. Now that the truth is out, Zhao Wendeng, do you still want to quibble?" When Nurse Zhang suddenly sat up, Xiaolu was also slightly stunned. Although the order he received was only to cause trouble, he was still a little scared when he saw a dead person sit up with his own eyes. Fortunately, this brat was quick-witted and immediately came to his senses. He took the opportunity to give Nurse Zhang a push with his words. This. Zhao Wendeng had just climbed to his feet with great difficulty. When he heard this, he immediately froze on the spot. His eyes stared straight at Guardian Zhang's corpse. He wanted to explain further, but he didn't know what to say. What do you mean by this and that? You've done such a despicable thing. You purposely found an injured person to pretend to be a dead person just to extort money from us. You're too shameless. What an unfilial son. Not only did you pretend to be dead, you even invited people to bring your father's portrait and cursed your own father to vomit blood and die. You really don't have any humanity at all. That's right. Not only that, he often bullies others and bullies ordinary people like us. I've long disliked him. Everyone, let's attack together and chase them away. The crowd had just calmed down from their previous fear. When they heard Xiaoyou's words, they once again roared angrily. Some people couldn't even suppress the anger in their hearts. They randomly picked up a stone from the ground and threw it at Zhao Wendeng. Seeing someone throw something, the others naturally couldn't suppress their anger from being scared and cheated. They immediately grabbed whatever they could get their hands on, even things that they were already holding in their hands, and threw it at Zhao Wendeng. Some eggs, tomatoes, rotten vegetable leaves, and other things suddenly flew into the air and were thrown at the scene. The entire scene was a mess. IOF*CK your grandpa. Who the F*CK dares to throw a rock at me? Whoa. Zhao Wendeng was caught off guard and hit squarely by the rock. Blood immediately flowed from his forehead. He was so angry that he wanted to curse again, but his mouth was blocked by a smashed live fish. It was stuck in his throat and he couldn't speak. He could only keep waving his hands for help. Don't just stand there. Hurry up and carry Guardian Zhang away. Are you waiting to be smashed to death again? Guardian Zhu stood beside Zhao Wendeng and was hit a few times for no reason. He couldn't be bothered to see who was hitting him. He quickly covered his body with primordial energy to prevent himself from getting injured. Then he ordered his subordinates to carry the stretcher away. He then pulled Zhao Wendeng and ran back to the Zhao family as though he was escaping. However, in the chaos, no one noticed that Guardian Zhang, who was originally sitting up and half lying on the stretcher, had quietly laid back down again. His eyes were tightly shut and he didn't move at all. He allowed the debris to land on his body, but he didn't make a move to resist at all. He didn't even make a sound. Through his divine sense, Xiao Qin, who was standing at the Qin family's entrance, saw the Zhao family's people fleeing in panic. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly as he nodded in satisfaction. Guardian Zhang's sudden resurrection and loud speech was actually Xiao Qian's doing. He had attached his psyche energy to Guardian Zhang's body and controlled him to stand up and speak. He had successfully intimidated the group of people outside. Now that the matter had ended satisfactorily, and Zhao Wendeng had also received the punishment he deserved, Xiao Qin retracted his psyche energy. He hummed a tune with his hands behind his back and turned to return to his room. Zhao Wendeng and a few of his subordinates finally ran home in a sorry state. They endured the nausea and cleaned up the rotten vegetables on their bodies. Only then did they realize that Guardian Zhang, who had been resurrected from the dead, was lying back down again. He was no longer breathing. Helpless, Zhao Wendeng could only choose to immediately find his father, Zhao Shimu, and report the situation. Although it was a little embarrassing, he still honestly explained the farce that followed and raised his suspicion. He thought that the Qin family might have specially invited someone over to slander his father's death. How dare they? After listening to Zhao Wendeng's report, Zhao Shimu could not help but slam the table heavily. His eyes were about to emit smoke. Zhao Wendeng stood silently to the side, afraid that his father would vent his anger on him. When he thought of the scene of Guardian Zhang coming back to life, he felt a chill run from the soles of his feet to the top of his head. He didn't feel well. Zhao Shimu did not notice Zhao Wendeng's expression. Instead, he said with a sullen expression, "Those bastards from the Qin family really think that they're very great. They killed 2 people from the Zhao family and snatched some of our business. Now they don't know how much they're worth? They actually dared to provoke us and even used my portrait to parade around the city. Are they tired of living?" Chapter 1345. Fa? Father, I think you don't have to worry about this matter. We will make the Qin family pay the price sooner or later. Zhao Wendeng hesitated for a moment and asked, now there is another thing that I can't understand. That guardian Zhang was clearly dead. How did he suddenly come back to life and speak? I have never been able to understand this question. After all, resurrecting the dead had exceeded the scope of Zhao Wendeng's understanding. Therefore he always had a lingering fear about this matter and felt very anxious. Why can't you understand this? Zhao Shimu snorted and said faintly, it must be that old thing Qin Shengling has broken through to the golden core stage. What does resurrection have to do with breaking through to the golden core stage? Zhao Wendeng blinked his eyes in confusion. He couldn't figure out the connection. Wendeng, you are also an immortal cultivator yourself. You should have some knowledge in this area. Zhao Shimu looked at his son reproachfully and said in a deep voice, as long as they reach a certain level, not only can immortal cultivators control the minds of others, but they can even make the dead sit up. What's so strange about this? Although it was clear and logical, Zhao Shimu had actually never seen the ability of a high-level immortal cultivator. He was just guessing based on the scene at that time. In the end he was really right. Then wouldn't it be more difficult for us to deal with the Qin family in the future? Why don't we let our clan's revered elder make the first move and secretly get rid of Qin Shengling, in case more trouble arises in the future? Zhao Wendeng frowned and suggested with a solemn expression. At this time, Zhao Wendeng was very glad that he didn't do anything irrational in the Qin family just now. If he listened to Guardian Zhu's suggestion and directly rushed into the Qin family to demand an explanation, his life was very likely to be left in the Qin family today. That old thing thinks that after successfully breaking through to the golden core stage he can compete with our Zhao family? Zhao Shimu knocked on the table, and a cunning look suddenly flashed in his eyes. Father, do we still have a trump card? Zhao Wendeng felt a little surprised when he saw his father suddenly show such a look. Is there any information about the Zhao family that I don't know? Zhao Shimu slowly took a sip of tea and then said leisurely, it seems that the Qin family hasn't received the latest news. In fact, our Zhao family already has 2 golden core stage masters. It's just a matter of time to wipe out the Qin family. Father, are you joking with me? Doesn't our clan only have 1 Oris core stage cultivator? When did we suddenly have another one? Zhao Wendeng was puzzled. Could it be that his father had invited another gold core stage cultivator back, but he didn't let him know about it? Golden core stage Zhao didn't know about it. Did have about it. Zhao have test and Zhao T, he. Whe Zhao to say. T. Zhao to say Zhao to Zhao to to. He's your grandfather's uncle. He used to travel around and just returned to the Zhao family at the beginning of this year. Really? So our Zhao family still has such a powerful person. Zhao Wendeng got excited and asked tentatively, then what's the level of my great-uncle now? Zhao Shimu smiled proudly and said unhurriedly, he's already at the 6th level of the golden core stage. It's just that the Zhao family hasn't announced it to the public, so only a few people know about it. So powerful. Zhao Wendeng's eyes immediately lit up. He waved his hand impatiently and said, then we don't have to worry about the Qin family anymore. We can just let great-great-uncle and that gold core stage cultivator destroy them together. After we exterminate the Qin family, Yanlin town will be our Zhao family's world. If Xiaoqun wasn't here, Zhao Wendeng's declaration would indeed sound like it. Although golden core stage masters weren't rare in the entire immortal cultivation world, in this remote town, they were already considered top-notch masters. If there were 2 golden core stage masters at home, then no matter how unscrupulous Zhao Wendeng was in Yanlin town, he would have enough confidence. And you don't have to worry about this matter. I'll go and ask them first, then we'll see how to deal with it later. Zhao Shimu waved his hand and stood up to leave the study. After taking 2 steps, he stopped and turned around to look at Zhao Wendeng. He warned him sternly, don't run around if you have nothing better to do. Stay at home for a period of time and wait for the limelight to pass. Oh, got it? Zhao Wendeng shrunk his neck and nodded helplessly. He thought to himself, I'll restrain myself for a while first. After my great-uncle reveals his power, see if I don't trample all of you to pieces. Zhao Shimu looked at Zhao Wendeng's sullen expression and couldn't help but roll his eyes. He thought to himself, it's all your fault, you stinking brat. You make me have to clean up your mess every time. You really can't do anything right, but you're good at spoiling things. After warning Zhao Wendeng a few more sentences, Zhao Shimu left the study with slightly hesitant footsteps and walked towards a secret room in the Zhao family's backyard with a perturbed mood. Because that old ancestor and the Golden Core stage revered elder had been in closed-door cultivation during this period of time, researching on how to continue breaking through and advancing, Zhao Shimu didn't dare to disturb the two of them unless he delivered some water and food. But the current situation had already reached a critical juncture for the Zhao family. If they still didn't suppress the Qin family, it would probably be very difficult for the Zhao family to have a foothold in Yanlin town in the future. After today's disturbance, the Zhao family's reputation and finances should be greatly affected. Helpless, Zhao Shimu had no choice but to let these two experts come out and help keep up appearances. Even if it would disturb their cultivation, there was nothing he could do. Dong dong dong. Not long after, Zhao Shimu arrived outside a man-made rockery by the lake in the backyard. He pushed open a secret compartment in the stone wall and went in. After a few turns, he walked to the front of a sealed house and knocked on the door respectfully. "Who is it?" As soon as the knock on the door fell, a cold voice came from inside the room. That voice obviously carried killing intent, showing that this person was obviously extremely disgusted with the guest who suddenly came to visit. "Oh, great-grandfather, please forgive me. I'm Zhao Shimu." Feeling the anger transmitted by the person in the room, Zhao Shimu bowed slightly and reported very humbly. Chapter 1346. Grand Duke Zhao's attitude did not soften just because Zhao Shimu was the head of the family. He continued to speak impatiently. "Didn't I warn you not to let anyone disturb us other than during mealtime? What's wrong? Don't you have ears?" Zhao Shimu could not help but shiver. He explained in a low voice, "Great-grandfather, I'm really sorry. I have something urgent to discuss with you and Senior Guan. It's about..." Without waiting for Zhao Shimu to finish, Grand Duke Zhao interrupted him mercilessly. "If it's nothing important, wait until dinner time to report to me. Brother Guan and I are currently cultivating. We don't have the time to care about your trivial business." "No, that's not it. What I want to report is very important." Zhao Shimu wiped the sweat off his forehead. He did not dare to be negligent. He quickly recounted how Guardian Zhang had been beaten to death for no reason, and how Zhao Wendeng had gone to the Qin clan to demand an explanation. In the end, he had been ruthlessly ridiculed by the Qin clan, and could only flee back to the Zhao clan. In the process of describing this matter, Zhao Shimu deliberately added oil and vinegar. He described the Qin family as abominable, and the Zhao family as innocent and pitiful people who were bullied by others. His purpose was to attract the attention of this great-great-uncle. Crash! As expected, just as Zhao Shimu finished his description, the sound of glass shattering rang out in the secret room. It was as if something had been ruthlessly smashed on the ground. Before Zhao Shimu could react, the door to the room opened. An old man with a furious expression walked out with vigorous steps. Behind him was another old man in black with a calm expression. "Zhao Shimu, is what you just said true? When did this happen?" The old man walking in front had a ferocious look in his eyes. It was Zhao Wending's great-grandfather, Zhao Xingxuan. Although he was already in his prime, his face was ruddy and did not look old at all. As soon as he walked out of the secret room, he immediately questioned Zhao Shimu solemnly. "Reporting to great-grandfather, everything I said is true. It happened in the past 2 days. Wendeng was just bullied. He is now covered with injuries, so he went to see a doctor." Zhao Shimu quickly added, deliberately putting on a look of humiliation on his face. "Brother Guan, we've been discussing this for so many days, but our cultivation is still stagnant. Why don't we put it aside for now and go out to exercise a bit? Let's kill a few brats from the Qin clan and establish our might. What do you think?" Zhao Xingxuan asked the black-robed old man behind him with a cold smile. The black-robed old man was the guest invited by the Zhao family. Although his cultivation level was higher than Zhao Xingxuan's, he was younger than Zhao Xingxuan, so after the two became familiar with each other, they usually called each other brothers. "Ah." The black-robed old man laughed heartily and casually moved his shoulders. He said lightly, "Since Brother Zhao is so interested, I will naturally be happy to accompany you. Anyway, it's been quite boring to stay in the secret chamber these days. I haven't killed anyone for a long time, and my hands are a little itchy. There's no harm in taking a stroll." "Good. Then let's go have some fun." A cruel smile appeared on Zhao Xingxuan's face. He then waved his hand and said, "Zhao Shimu, let's go. Lead the way." Let's go to the Qin clan for a stroll. In fact, Zhao Xingxuan didn't have much interest in the grudges between his family and others. Usually he liked to study the way of immortal cultivation. Otherwise he wouldn't have left home at such a young age to travel the Jianghu. He hadn't returned home for so long. But now that he was in his family, how could Zhao Xingxuan turn a blind eye to this? Moreover, Zhao Xingxuan had recently advanced to the 6th level of the Golden Core stage. He was looking for an opportunity to test his strength. He didn't expect that someone would take the initiative to provoke his family. Wasn't this a fat piece of meat that was sent to his mouth? If he didn't eat it now, when would he? Alright, both of you this way. Hearing Zhao Xingxuan's order, Zhao Shimu immediately agreed. He hurriedly led them in the direction of the Qin clan. He couldn't help but feel happy in his heart. This was because Zhao Shimu knew very well that although Zhao Xingxuan's identity was the family's great uncle, he was still a distant relative. He didn't have much sense of belonging to the Zhao clan. Usually he was only interested in cultivation. This time, when Zhao Xingxuan returned, he made a prompt decision to promise him that the Zhao clan would provide him with enough treasures. In addition, there would be a Golden Core stage cultivator who could discuss the mysteries of cultivation with him. That was why Zhao Xingxuan agreed to stay. Originally, Zhao Shimu thought that he would have to spend a lot of effort to invite these two people. He even calculated that as long as he could invite a Golden Core stage expert, it would be enough to exterminate the Qin clan. In the end, he didn't expect that after a few words, these two experts would actually be willing to stand up for the Zhao clan. To Zhao Shimu this could be said to be a complete surprise. The three of them quickly arrived at the gate of the Qin clan. At this time the crowd of onlookers had already dispersed. They only saw rotten leaves and smashed eggs all over the ground. It looked very tragic. When he thought about how Zhao Wendeng was insulted by the people here just now, and how he fled home in such a sorry state, Zhao Shimu's expression didn't look too good. At this time Xiao Lu was cleaning at the door with a few servants. When he saw strangers coming over, he quickly went up to greet them. May I ask who the three of you are looking for? Zhao Shimu, why are you here? Xiao Lu had just greeted them when he took a closer look and realized that the people who came were the Zhao clan's patriarch, Zhao Shimu, and two old men. He immediately blurted out in surprise. What did you call me? Zhao Shimu didn't expect that a servant would dare to call his name directly. He thought that he had heard wrongly, so he asked in disbelief. Xiao Lu, who was originally a little afraid of the Zhao clan, was in high spirits after experiencing the humiliation of Zhao Wendeng just now. When he saw Zhao Shimu he was no longer afraid. He teased with a faint smile. Zhao Shimu, could it be that you think it's too embarrassing for your son to make up such a farce, so you specially came to apologize to our old master Qin? How dare you? Zhao Shimu couldn't bear it anymore and scolded. Then he raised his hand and slapped Xiao Lu. He shouted with a gloomy face, how can a servant like you call my name directly? Hurry up and call that old bastard Qin Shengling out. You're quite bold. How dare you make fun of my son? Today I'll make your entire Qin clan die a horrible death. Chapter 1347. It was clearly your son who picked a fight first. How dare you accuse him first? What? Caught off guard, Xiao Lu was slapped so hard that he saw stars. He spun around on the spot, covered his red and swollen cheek and protested incoherently. Before he could steady himself, Zhao Shimu stepped forward and kicked Xiao Lu in the chest, causing him to fall to the ground. The other servants of the Qin family also realized that the situation was not good at this time. Two of them immediately ran over and carefully helped Xiao Lu up from the ground. The other one ran into the mansion in a panic. It seemed that he was going to report to Qin Shengling. Find fault with your mother's leg. Zhao Shimu stared at Xiao Lu who was being helped up in front of him and said coldly, I didn't expect you to be so stubborn. You were one of those people who teased my son just now, weren't you? Today I will teach you a lesson on behalf of Qin Shengling, you shameless B*****. Since there were two gold core stage masters behind him, Zhao Shimu's arrogance at this time was naturally more and more arrogant. He spoke with full confidence, but before he could beat up Little Six again, he was stopped by Zhao Xingxuan behind him. Shimu, why are you wasting so much saliva? Zhao Xingxuan glanced at Xiao Lu indifferently and said expressionlessly, this kind of ant-like servant, just kill him directly. What's there to say to him? After saying that, a cold smile flashed across Zhao Xingxuan's mouth. He circulated the primordial qi in his body and covered it in his right palm. Gradually, It condensed into a huge crimson fireball, and then he suddenly threw it at where Xiao Lu and the two servants were standing. Little Six and the others were scared out of their wits when they saw a ball of blazing flames suddenly bursting forth and smashing toward them with a ferocious murderous aura wrapped in it. They were just servants who usually sprinkled water and cleaned up in the family. How could they have ever seen such a scene? At this time, even if they wanted to escape, their legs were already so weak that they could not run. They knew that their lives were over today, so they could only close their eyes in despair and wait for the flame to devour them. Chi, seeing that the big fireball was about to touch Little Six and the others, a large basin of cold water suddenly fell from the sky, instantly extinguishing the giant fireball. Then a coquettish cheer came from the top of the Qin family's gate. Wow! Xiao Chang's husband is so amazing. Such a big fireball was easily extinguished by you. I, your elder sister, love you more and more. Oh, it's just a small matter. Isn't it common sense that water can extinguish fire? What's there to be surprised about? Xiao Qin casually threw away the bucket in his hand and clapped his hands. Raising his head to look at the man and woman standing at the top of the gate, the black-robed old man's expression was somewhat solemn. He was bewildered. Water could extinguish a fire, but the fireball that Zhao Xingxuan threw just now was not an ordinary flame. It was a spell that was transformed from essence Qi. Ordinary people couldn't extinguish it with water at all. Not to mention the fact that this fellow had grasped the timing so accurately, striking just as the flames were about to touch the three servants. Who were this man and woman? Could he be a guest invited by the Qin clan? Had they also reached the gold core stage? Xiao Qin stood at the top of the Qin clan's gate and looked down at Zhao Shimu and the others. With a serious expression he lectured, "Old fellows down there. I see that you're not young anymore. Why did you come to someone else's house and play with fire? Don't you know that this is very dangerous? Didn't your teacher teach you not to play with fire? If you set the Qin clan on fire, can you afford to pay for it?" Listening to Xiao Chen's sarcasm, the murderous intent in Zhao Xingxuan's eyes disappeared. He stared at Xiao Chen and said coldly, "Who are you bastards? Could it be that you also want to stand up for the Qin clan? Quickly tell me your name. This old man doesn't kill nameless people." "TSK, my wife. Do you think that old bastard down there has dementia?" Xiao Chen shook his head, casually pinched Hongzhu's cheek, and said as if nothing had happened, "Didn't you just call out my name? This old guy actually pretended that he didn't hear me and even asked me to tell my name. I think he must have forgotten to take his medicine before going out. The more he lives, the more muddled he becomes." In fact, when Zhao Shimu and the others arrived at the Qin clan's gate, Xiao Chen had already sensed them with his divine sense. He originally wanted to observe the strength of these people before making a decision, but the fireball thrown out by Zhao Xingxuan really surprised Xiao Chen. Seeing that Xiao Lu and the other two servants were about to lose their lives to Zhao Xingxuan's fireball, Xiao Chen could no longer sit back and watch. He picked up a bucket of water beside him and quickly rushed over with Hongzhu, rescuing Xiao Lu and the others from Zhao Xingxuan's hands. However, ordinary cold water was naturally unable to extinguish an immortal cultivator's magic. Before Xiao Chen splashed the water, he quietly added a bit of primordial qi into the water, allowing Little Six and the rest to survive. Being pinched on the cheek by Xiao Chen as if he was flirting with her, and hearing him call her wife, intimately, Hongzhu felt as if a little deer was running around in his heart. However, Hongzhu did not show it on his face. He still had a smile on his face and with a charming voice that could make any man go crazy, he softly reprimanded, "Oh Xiao Chang, my husband, you're wrong to say that. Isn't it fashionable to respect the old and cherish the young? Since we are young, we should be considerate of those old people who become more and more useless as they get older. Look at you, you're still so kind to the lonely old people." Xiao Chen suddenly remembered a joke that had been very popular on the internet a while ago. He smiled and rubbed his chin saying, "But you can't say it like that. We will also grow old sooner or later. The most important thing is our temperament." Hearing Xiao Chen and Hongzhu ridiculing them, Zhao Xingxuan was immediately unable to restrain his anger. Ever since he returned to the Zhao family, he had spent every day being respected and worshipped by the younger generation. When had he ever been humiliated like this? Glaring coldly at Xiao Chen and Hongzhu, Zhao Xingxuan condensed his yuan qi in his palms once more, and said in a sinister tone, "Humph. Two little juniors who overestimate their own capabilities actually dare to spout such nonsense. Since you're courting death, don't blame me for being merciless." However, before Zhao Xingxuan could make a move, the black-robed old man stopped him and said in a low voice, Brother Zhao, don't be in such a hurry to attack. These two people are a little strange. What's wrong, Brother Guan? Did you notice someone lying in ambush nearby? Zhao Xingxuan was currently burning with rage. Hearing this, he simply swept his eyes around, but did not discover any traces of an ambush. Chapter 1348. It wasn't an ambush. The black-robed old man first denied this statement. Then he slowly took a step forward and patted Zhao Xingxuan's shoulder. He stared at Xiao Chen and explained in a soft voice, "The fireball technique you threw out just now cannot be extinguished by ordinary water. However, that kid managed to do it. From this, it can be seen that he does have some ability. I think that we should still proceed with caution." "Brother Guan, you're overestimating this adulterous couple too much." Zhao Xingxuan disagreed with the black-robed old man's words. Glaring at Xiao Chen, he fiercely said, "I didn't use my full strength just now. As long as it's someone with a little bit of cultivation, they can easily dissolve it with their yuan qi. However, I won't make the same mistake a second time. With this next move, I will definitely make them die without a complete corpse." The black-robed old man still wanted to say something, but Zhao Xingxuan had already transformed the yuan qi in his hand into rapidly pulsating flames. He swung his palm at Xiao Chen and Hongzhu, shouting, "Flaming heavenly fire rain." Following that shout, the fireballs in Zhao Xingxuan's palm were immediately released in a continuous stream. They streaked through the air, leaving streaks of scarlet trails in the air. With an indomitable momentum, they crazily attacked the place where Xiao Chen and Hongzhu were standing. It seemed that he wanted to burn the two of them into charcoal in one move. Oh, although the momentum is not bad and can be given 4 points, it's a pity that its power is not worth mentioning. Negative points. However, Xiao Chen did not pay any attention to the surging fireballs. Instead, he stretched his body and expressionlessly instructed, "Nethery, it's been a long time since I let you take a breather. Quickly come out and show that old fart what you're capable of. Let him understand what a true rain of fire is." "Understood." With a happy reply, the 9 underworld flame drilled out from Xiao Chen's palm. It first swayed up and down for a while as though it was doing a warm-up exercise. Under Hongzhu's curious gaze, the 9 underworld's flame instantly swallowed all the flames that were hurtling towards Xiao Chen with lightning speed. It swallowed them cleanly, leaving not a single one behind. "Wow! Xiao Chang's husband, this fire is so great. Won't it choke after eating so many small fireballs?" Hongzhu let out a delicate cry and couldn't help but ask in surprise. "Of course not, it hasn't used its next move yet." Xiao Chen smiled, crossed his arms and leisurely watched the fire of the underworld perform on its own. After the netherworld fire swallowed Zhao Xingxuan's flames, its body began to grow. Then, with a bang, it suddenly burst into hundreds of bluish-purple fireballs, surging towards Zhao Xingxuan's body. What the hell are these?" Zhao Xingxuan was dumbfounded. He had been in the cultivation world for dozens of years, but he had never seen such a strange flame. When he saw the bluish-purple fireballs rushing towards him, Zhao Xingxuan cursed in his heart. He stomped his left foot on the ground and tried his best to dodge to the right. Only then did he manage to avoid the attack of the 9 underworld flame. However, when Zhao Xingxuan's robe was brushed by the flames, it immediately caught fire. Zhao Xingxuan made a prompt decision and directly cut off the corner of the robe. Before the piece of cloth could fall to the ground, it had already been burned to ashes and disappeared. Smelling the pungent burnt smell, the expression of the black-robed elder standing beside Zhao Xingxuan froze. He realized that the other party's strength was about the same as his, and that the Zhao family head would not be able to resist it alone. With this thought in mind, the black-robed elder hurriedly used his movement technique. On one hand he carefully avoided the bluish-purple flames, and on the other hand he stared at Xiao Chen. He planned to find an opportunity to kill him and use this opportunity to save Zhao Xingxuan. Zhao Shimu, who was beside him, was also quite frightened. Although he was also an immortal cultivator, his strength was far inferior to Zhao Xingxuan and the black-robed elder. Seeing this, he had no other way to deal with it. He could only roll on the ground a few times and avoid the flames in a very sorry state. Fortunately, Xiao Chen's main target was not him, so it was not that difficult for Zhao Shimu to avoid it. Damn it, this kid is a bit troublesome. Zhao Xingxuan finally managed to stand firm. He also knew that he had met a tough opponent today. His mind turned quickly, and he could no longer care about fighting alone. He immediately called for the black-robed elder and prepared to attack Xiao Chen together with him. Brother Guan, it seems that we have to work together too. Before Zhao Xingxuan could finish his sentence, he suddenly felt a scorching sensation coming from behind him that was getting closer and closer. Zhao Shimu, who had rolled far away, also realized that the situation was not good. The bluish-purple flames seemed to have a consciousness of their own. After circling around, they turned around and swarmed towards Zhao Xingxuan again. Seeing this scene, Zhao Shimu's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. He hurriedly shouted at the top of his lungs, "Grand Elder Zhao, get out of the way. Those fireballs are coming back again." *CK. Zhao Xingxuan did not dare to look back at the situation. He could already feel that one of the bluish-purple fireballs had already touched the clothes on his back. Frightened out of his wits, he immediately rushed forward and shrunk his body, instantly taking off his outer clothes. Then, he reached out and pulled the black-robed elder who was standing in front of him behind him. The black-robed elder had not expected Zhao Xingxuan to make such a move. He had always thought that the fireballs would not return after flying away. At this time he was so focused on how to deal with Xiao Chen that he did not notice the movement behind him. It was only when the black-robed elder was forced to stand behind Zhao Xingxuan and felt the first fireball explode on his back did his expression change dramatically. He cried out in his heart that his life was over. Xiao Chen narrowed his eyes and raised his hands to cover Hongzhu's ears. Hongzhu did not know what was going on at first, but she immediately understood. Boom boom boom. As the flames of the 9 underworlds continued to explode on the black-robed elder's back, deafening explosions instantly resounded through the sky. The shockwaves from the explosions caused dust to fly everywhere and smoke to fill the air. It was completely impossible to see what was happening at the center of the explosion. The explosions continued for a long time before the continuous sounds of gunfire disappeared. The flames of the 9 underworlds once again gathered into a ball and returned to Xiao Chen. After proudly waving it a few times, Xiao Chen took it back. The entire scene was completely silent. Nothing could be seen except for the thick dust and smoke, and not even the slightest sound could be heard. Xiao Chen and Hongzhu waited for a while longer before the smoke gradually dissipated. As gusts of wind swept past the center of the explosion, the dust that continued to fill the air was finally completely blown away. At the center of the explosion, there was only a tattered piece of cloth swaying in the wind, trembling as it circled back and forth in the air. There was only a small charred bag on the ground. The black-robed elder had long since disappeared. It was obvious that he had been blown to pieces by the flames of the 9 underworlds. Chapter 1349. At this time, Qin Shengling and Qin Tao finally arrived at the scene. The two of them looked at the potholes on the ground outside the door and could not help but look at each other in confusion. Based on the loud explosion just now and the scene in front of them, Qin Shengling speculated that a fierce battle and explosion had just taken place here. Unfortunately, there was nothing left at the scene. As for who the unlucky guy who was blown up was, there was no way of knowing. Not bad, killing monsters drop treasures. It seems that the immortal cultivation world is indeed a good place. Xiao Chen grinned and let go of the hand that was covering Hongzhu's ear. He turned around and gently hugged her slender waist. Then he jumped down from the top of the gate and walked towards the charred bag with light steps. "Husband Xiao Chong, that old man in black looks like he was killed by your explosion. However, didn't the Zhao family send 3 people here just now? Where did the other 2 go? Could it be that they were also hit by those fireballs and disappeared into thin air?" Hongzhu leaned against Xiao Chen's side and looked around, but did not see Zhao Shimu and Zhao Xingxuan. She could not help but ask in confusion. "Oh, they were blown away by the shockwave of the explosion just now. I'm guessing that they've already fled back to the Zhao clan," Xiao Chen said casually. He then released Hongzhu and bent over to pick up the charred bag on the ground. Although the moment the flames of the underworld exploded, dust filled the sky, Xiao Chen's divine sense was outstanding. He could clearly see that after Zhao Xingxuan used the old man in black as a shield, he and Zhao Shimu were both pushed several meters away by the powerful shock wave and fell to the ground together. After stumbling to their feet, the two of them were scared out of their wits by the series of explosions. Taking advantage of the smoke and fog when no one could see them, they quickly slipped away. Hongzhu blinked his eyes. He was still a little reluctant to part with Xiao Chen's broad chest. However, when he saw Xiao Chen pick up the bag, he asked with some interest, "Quick, open it and take a look. What's inside?" Xiao Chen opened it and found that there were only some spiritual crystals inside. He shrugged his shoulders in disdain and said, "It seems that the Zhao family is not very rich. I can't believe this old guy only brought so few spiritual crystals with him. It's not even enough to pay for my appearance fee. Come on, I think you've been with Tian Sour for too long. You've been infected by her money grubber aura. No matter what you do, you have to prioritize money. Hongzhu chuckled as he teased, as the saying goes, men die in pursuit of wealth and birds die in pursuit of food. That's probably referring to people like you. That being said, Hongzhu's eyes were also fixed on the spirit crystals in the bag, his pupils rapidly widening. It was obvious that he was extremely tempted by these spirit crystals. Look at what you're saying as if you're not greedy. When Xiaoqin saw Hongzhu's appearance, he helplessly shook his head, rolled his eyes and said, "Look at yourself, your eyeballs are about to fall into your pockets. Alright, I'll let you keep it." After saying that, Xiaoqin stuffed the bag into Hongzhu's hands. Hee, you're smart. Hongzhu happily accepted the bag and casually praised Xiaoqin. When Xiaoqin saw Hongzhu's money grubber appearance, he helplessly nodded his head and said, "You're just like a well-fed man who doesn't know the hunger of a starving man. I remember that in the past, for the sake of cultivation, I had to spend a lot of money at Little Hong's pharmacy because of you. Fortunately, my luck is pretty good. Every time, someone would take the initiative to give me money. Otherwise, I might have been sleeping on the streets." Hongzhu's eyes curved into crescents as he flirtatiously placed his hand on Xiaoqian's shoulder and said, "Aya, since we're already an old married couple, your money is my money and my money is still my money. What's the difference?" "Of course there is." Xiaoqin pursed his lips and was about to retort when Qin Shengling came over. "Immortal Xiao, are you all right?" Qin Shengling looked Xiaoqin and Hongzhu up and down. When he saw that neither of them had any injuries, he slightly relaxed and continued, "Taotian and I rushed over as soon as we received the news, but we were still a step too late. Those scum of the Zhao family actually dared to seek revenge after failing to cause trouble. They're a bit too brazen. They really think that Yanlin town is their territory." "I'm fine. 3 people from the Zhao family came just now. One of them is called Zhao Shi or something. His strength is rather low, so I didn't pay attention." Xiaoqin scratched his head and said indifferently, "Zhao Shimu?" Qin Shengling frowned and said, "He's the current young patriarch of the Zhao family, and also Zhao Wending's father. It seems that he has personally come to seek justice for his son." "Oh, but he doesn't seem to have time to say anything." Xiaoqin casually spread his hands and said calmly, "Because the other 2 were Golden Core experts. I killed one of them and the remaining 2 ran away in fear." Golden Core expert. Qin Taotian, who was standing next to Qin Shengling, almost stuttered. He looked at Xiaoqin with extreme shock in his eyes. In Qin Taotian's eyes, the Golden Core stage was already an unreachable existence. His grandfather had stayed at the Foundation establishment stage for so long and had yet to break through to the next stage. In the end, Xiaoqin could actually kill someone so casually. Just how high was this person's cultivation? At this moment, Qin Shengling was also stunned on the spot. He only reacted after a long time, and his attitude towards Xiaoqin became even more respectful. He flattered and flattered Xiaoqin to the extreme, almost treating him as a god. Qin Shengling thought more than Qin Taotian. If it was just a Golden Core stage, Xiaoqin could kill him, but the Zhao family had 2 Golden Core stage experts this time. Under the pincer attack of 2 experts, not only did Xiaoqin casually kill one of them, but he was also able to escape unscathed and scare the other away. Was this something an ordinary expert could do? Therefore, Qin Shengling's attitude towards Xiaoqin had become more humble. After all, there was such an unfathomable expert in the Qin family. Even if he only stood up for the Qin family once, it was enough to deter all the families and people in Yanlin town. That bullshit Zhao family was nothing at all. Xiaoqin had heard a lot of similar flattery, so he didn't take it to heart at all. He didn't act high and mighty either. He just waved his hand and said humbly that it was nothing. With Xiaoqin's cultivation, killing a Golden Core stage expert was just like taking something out of his pocket. There was really nothing to show off. Qin Shengling and Qin Taotian saw Xiaoqin's attitude in their eyes. They couldn't help but be more respectful to him. They almost bowed down to the ground. Chapter 1350. Looking at the tragic scene of the explosion, Xiaoqin had another thought in his mind. It was a thought that had been lingering in his mind ever since he came to the immortal cultivation world. Elder Heaven Ancestor, I've discovered that these fellows in the immortal cultivation world have a problem. They seem to like to rely on spells and strange props and weapons to attack their enemies. After pondering for a while, Xiaochen asked directly in his sea of consciousness, "Do you think I should get a magical weapon as well? If I encounter an enemy of equal strength, I won't be at a disadvantage because I'm unarmed." You're really acting dumb. Do you think magical weapons are like cabbages and carrots that can be found everywhere? Elder Heaven Ancestor's tone was very helpless. Obtaining a suitable weapon is 100 times more difficult than gathering those rare treasures of heaven and earth. Oh, then I have to make some plans first. If I'm not careful and encounter a real expert, it will be too late when I'm beaten to a pulp. Xiaochen scratched his head and said somewhat gloomily, "Don't think about this for now. If the weapon you obtain does not match your cultivation method and attribute, you will not be able to display the strongest effect." Elder Heaven Ancestor explained slowly, "So for you, it is more practical to work hard to improve your cultivation." "That's right, what kind of attribute do I have? In any case, I can be considered as your proud disciple. Why have I never heard you mention it?" Hearing Elder Heaven Ancestor's words, Xiaochen couldn't help but ask in confusion. He had never been very clear about the issue of attributes. Elder Heaven Ancestor also never explained it to him. So at this time he was completely confused. "Oh, you have 5 attributes. But this is not important. In a legendary battle between experts, it has always been about speed, accuracy, ruthlessness, as well as clear judgment, keen adaptability, and absolute strength. If your cultivation is enough to suppress your opponent, then it doesn't matter which attribute you have." Elder Heaven Ancestor answered casually, "What the hell? No attributes, this is too much." Xiaochen secretly rolled his eyes. He could not help but feel a headache coming on. He did not expect that after cultivating for so long, his body did not have any attributes at all. He had been looking forward to it for so long, really. "Xiaochen, are you stupid?" The Elder Heaven Ancestor was also speechless at Xiaochen's failure to meet his expectations. He scolded, "Even if your ears aren't sharp and you can't even hear 5 and nothing clearly, you should understand that you are now proficient in casting spells such as Fireball, Water Ball, Wind Ball, Lightning Ball, and so on, right?" "Ah, Elder Heaven Ancestor, you mean?" Xiaochen immediately woke up from his listless state and suddenly realized. "Yes. You have basically mastered all the attributes now." The Elder Heaven Ancestor replied impatiently, "Even if you don't have any attributes, you still have the fire of the underworld and Little Demon and to help you. If you really can't do it, you can still use the flying sword as a weapon. Why bother with those useless things? Aren't you asking for trouble?" "Oh, so that's how it is. You scared this baby to death." Xiaochen pretended to pat his chest with lingering fear. He thought for a while and added, "But if I encounter a suitable weapon, Elder Heaven Ancestor, you still have to remind me. I always feel that using the flying sword is not convenient enough. Moreover, this young master is so elegant and handsome. Using a sword is too ordinary and not domineering at all." Although he was already invincible in Yanlin Town, this was only the most remote corner of the entire immortal cultivation world. Xiaochen always felt that when he went to look for Qing Menjing and the others, the road to the center of the immortal cultivation world would definitely be full of experts and dangers everywhere. Therefore, he had to prepare 1 or 2 self-defense treasures in advance. "We'll talk about it later. In fact, I think you're very good at playing cheap. It suits your image very well. As long as you can diligently study it, the experts in the immortal cultivation world will sooner or later submit to your cheap tricks." The Elder Heaven Ancestor had long been accustomed to Xiaochen's arrogant temperament. He casually ridiculed him and then said no more. Naturally, Xiaochen could hear the hidden meaning in the Elder Heaven Ancestor's words. However, he was completely helpless against this master. He could only embarrassedly touch his nose and withdraw his thoughts. He pulled Hongzhu's hand and slowly walked into the mansion under the reverent gazes of the Qin family members. On the other side of Yanlin Town, in a secret room in the Zhao family's rear garden, Zhao Xingxuan was sitting paralyzed on a wooden armchair with a deathly pale face. His whole body was motionless, as if he had not yet recovered from the violent explosion. Zhao Shimu was so frightened that his legs were trembling. He tightly shut his mouth and silently stood beside Zhao Xingxuan, cautiously listening to the movements outside the secret room. He was afraid that the Qin family would take advantage of this opportunity to retaliate against the Zhao family. After a long time, Zhao Xingxuan let out a deep breath and eased the depression and fear that filled his stomach. Unexpected, truly unexpected. Zhao Xingxuan muttered to himself with a face full of emotion. Such a powerful expert has actually appeared in the Qin family. Looking at that guy's appearance, his strength is at least on par with mine. If I really had to face him head-on, I would only have a 50-50 chance of winning, and it is very likely that I would be seriously injured. Great-grandfather, you are currently the only pillar of the Zhao family. The Zhao family cannot do without you. Zhao Shimu's face was ashen as he said this while trembling. In his heart, he prayed that Zhao Xingxuan would not be impulsive and fight that guy again. Zhao Xingxuan glared at him and said coldly, I'm just evaluating the strength of that expert from the Qin family. It doesn't mean that I want to fight him again. I'm not that old and muddle-headed yet. Zhao Shimu let out a light sigh and did not dare to reply. He carefully changed the topic and said, Originally, I thought that the gold core stage sinecure would be enough to destroy the Qin family in one fell swoop. In the end, even he is dead. The Qin family will definitely not let this go. Great-grandfather, what do you think we should do next? Zhao Xingxuan heavily knocked on the table and said angrily with a frown, What should we do? Immediately send a message to the Immortal Cultivator's Chamber of Commerce and tell them about Brother Guan's death. Then tell them to come and deal with it. Yes. How could I have forgotten about this? Zhao Shimu quickly nodded and was about to turn around to leave when he was stopped by Zhao Xingxuan. Wait. Zhao Xingxuan called out to Zhao Shimu and pondered for a moment before saying, You should bring the tools to the secret room. I will communicate with them. You speak incoherently and it will not be good if they misunderstand you. Although Zhao Shimu was somewhat puzzled, he still nodded and left the secret room to make preparations. Chapter 1351. In fact, Zhao Xingxuan wasn't afraid that Zhao Shimu wouldn't explain things clearly. Rather, he was afraid that Zhao Shimu would explain things too clearly. If the people from the Cultivation Chamber of Commerce knew that Brother Guan had died because of him, the Zhao family would definitely be implicated. Not long after, Zhao Shimu finished preparing the tools. He first brought back a basin of water, then took out a special sound-transmitting talisman and soaked it in the water. Zhao Xingxuan and Zhao Shimu both stared at the sound-transmitting talisman. Not long after it was soaked in the water, it gradually melted and disappeared. A few bubbles appeared in the wooden basin, then a strange ripple appeared, circling back and forth. In fact, in the cultivation world, if people wanted to communicate with each other over a long distance, they could only rely on sound-transmitting talismans. If it was only a short communication of a few words, he only needed to burn the voice transmission talisman and recite the message he wanted to transmit. However, if he wanted to transmit a long message that required both parties to converse, he would have to soak the voice transmission talisman in water and use the vibrations generated by the water to communicate for a long time. Hello, welcome to the Immortal Cultivation Chamber of Commerce. For Mandarin, please lightly tap the water surface once. For English service, please press 3. Not long after, the sound of a woman's voice suddenly sounded from the wooden basin. However, there were only ripples on the surface of the water, and no reflections could be seen. Fortunately, people in the cultivation world were already used to this kind of scene. If people in the secular world saw this, they would probably think that it was a ghost. In fact, it was very simple. The sound-transmitting talisman was actually equivalent to a telephone in the secular world. The Immortal Cultivation Chamber of Commerce. What the hell is this name? Inexplicable. Zhao Xingxuan muttered to himself and stretched out his finger to press the water surface. Although he had communicated with this Chamber of Commerce several times, Zhao Xingxuan always felt a little strange every time he heard the name. Hello, you are a low-level member of the Immortal Cultivation Chamber of Commerce. Welcome to your call. If you require manual service, please tap the water surface once. If you require a transfer to the Regional Marketing Director, please tap the water surface twice. After Zhao Xingxuan pressed the water surface, a few more bubbles appeared, and the woman's voice came out from the wooden basin again. Damn, why is it so troublesome? Zhao Xingxuan was a little impatient, but he suppressed his irritation and pressed on the surface of the water twice. He frowned and waited quietly for a response. In the past, Zhao Xingxuan had simply used the method of burning the sound-transmitting talisman to communicate with the Immortal Cultivation Chamber of Commerce. This was the first time that he had to use a long communication method. He didn't expect it to be so complicated. When Zhao Xingxuan finished pressing twice, a few fist-sized bubbles appeared at the bottom of the wooden basin, floating on the surface of the water without bursting. After waiting for a while, a passionate man's voice came from the wooden basin. Hello, Mr. Zhao, how are you? Are you satisfied with the gold core stage expert that I sent to you previously? If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. Our Immortal Cultivation Chamber of Commerce will promptly deal with the after-sales issues for you. Director Liu. Director, this old man has encountered some trouble here. The gold core stage expert that you sent has been killed. The person who killed him is someone from the Qin family of Yanlin Town. You can send someone to investigate, and then it's best if you can send us an expert as reinforcements. Don't worry, spirit crystals aren't a problem. Zhao Xingxuan shouted a little awkwardly at the wooden basin. Zhao Xingxuan's hoarse voice looked very funny, but Zhao Shimu, who was standing on the side, didn't have the mood to laugh. Instead, he stared at the wooden basin. After Zhao Xingxuan finished shouting, a few more bubbles formed on the surface of the water, and then gradually sank into the wooden basin, disappearing into thin air. Are you kidding me? You guys are too careless. You didn't even figure out the strength of the other party, and you rashly sent a gold core stage expert to fight with the other party? This time, the speed at which the bubbles appeared was very fast, and Director Liu's loud questioning voice came out. Director Liu, don't be angry. We didn't know that the other party still had a trick up their sleeves, so we accidentally fell into their trap. Zhao Shimu was afraid that Zhao Xingxuan would flare up, so he hurriedly shouted at the water basin before him. Accidentally? Is this something that can be solved by saying, accidentally? If this situation is known by the sect behind the expert, do you think that you can still have a good life? Director Liu's voice was very ear-piercing, and it was obvious that he was already angry. Zhao Shimu's forehead was sweating, and he hurriedly comforted the wooden basin. Director Liu, didn't we immediately contact you when there was a problem? I hope that you can put in a few good words for us in front of the sect. It would be best if you can cover up this matter. Our Immortal Cultivation Chamber of Commerce is most particular about integrity. We will not do things that are hypocritical. Director Liu's voice was very arrogant, and it seemed that he was very disdainful of the Zhao family. Director Liu, the urgent matter at hand is to trouble your Chamber of Commerce to send us a stronger expert. Zhao Shimu saw that this path was not going to work, so he simply changed the topic. If the expert that you send is at the peak of the gold core stage or the nascent soul stage, that would be the best. I say, what kind of good things are you thinking? With your current membership level, you do not meet the requirements to send a nascent soul stage expert. Director Liu was very dissatisfied and he reprimanded, and because of your mistake this time, even if we send an expert at the peak of the gold core stage, we will have to reconsider. This Director Liu was also a shrewd person. Although sending an expert over could earn more spirit crystals for the Chamber of Commerce, and he could also get a lot of commission, he would not act blindly. Otherwise, if it was found out that he had broken the rules, it would not be good if he was fired. Zhao Xingxuan was extremely unhappy with Director Liu's arrogant attitude, and he heavily slammed the table. Just as he was about to open his mouth to scold the other party, he was pulled back by Zhao Shimu. Great-grandfather, please calm down, don't cause trouble with the Immortal Cultivation Chamber of Commerce. Cold sweat dripped down Zhao Shimu's back, and he hurriedly said in a low voice, although the name of their Chamber of Commerce is a little strange, I heard that they have relations with many sects and families in the immortal cultivation world. Our Zhao family is only a small family in a remote place, we simply cannot afford to offend them. In fact, Zhao Xingxuan also knew what Zhao Shimu had said, but he had not been able to suppress his anger just now. Now that he had been stopped, he no longer flared up. He forcefully suppressed the anger in his heart, coldly snorted, picked up the teacup on the table and drank it in one gulp. Then, he gritted his teeth and stared at the wooden basin, waiting for the other party's reply. Chapter 1352. Zhao Shimu pacified Zhao Xingxuan with great difficulty, then looked at the wooden basin anxiously. Seeing that there was no response from Director Liu, as if he hadn't heard Zhao Taigong's anger, he couldn't help but secretly sigh in relief. Director Liu pondered for a moment, then said unhurriedly, how about this, I'll first report the situation to the higher-ups, then immediately establish an investigation team to go to Yanlin Town to investigate the cause of death of the gold core stage expert, so as to give his sect an explanation. Okay then, thank you, Director Liu. We will respectfully welcome the arrival of the investigation team. Zhao Shimu immediately flattered respectfully, not taking his words to heart. Anyway, no matter how they investigated, Senior Guan was killed by the Qin family. At most, the Zhao family would just pay some funeral expenses. As long as the sect behind Senior Guan was a little reasonable, they wouldn't vent their anger on the Zhao family. Zhao Xingxuan's expression was a little subtle. Although Brother Guan was killed by the Qin family, in the end he was the one who dragged him out to be a scapegoat. If this matter was investigated by the Chamber of Commerce? No, it definitely wouldn't. At that time, the smoke of the explosion was everywhere and nothing could be seen clearly. There was absolutely no one who would know what had happened. Moreover, at that time only Zhao Shimu and the Qin family were present. As long as Zhao Shimu instructed him, he definitely wouldn't go out and talk nonsense. Moreover, the Qin family was the culprit who killed Brother Guan. Even if he pointed out Zhao Xingxuan, no one would listen to him. While Zhao Xingxuan was thinking intensely, Director Lu's words came to an end. As for the matter of dealing with your enemy, wait for our Chamber of Commerce to investigate all the reasons, then we will make plans. This time let's leave it at that. After saying this, the sound transmission bubble slowly sank and disappeared at the bottom of the basin. The ripples in the wooden basin then slowly dissipated, returning to calmness. It seemed that Director Lu had already cancelled the call and was busy dealing with other matters. Shimu, I used to train outside, so I don't know much about these secular things. Do you know the origin of the Immortal Cultivation Chamber of Commerce? I've never seen or heard of such an attitude to treat customers. Zhao Xingxuan withdrew his thoughts and glared at the wooden basin. Zhao Xingxuan didn't have much contact with the Immortal Cultivation Chamber of Commerce in the past, so he wasn't very clear about its background. At this time he couldn't help but complain in his heart. What kind of attitude does this Chamber of Commerce have when doing business? If they were all as tough as Director Lu, sooner or later they would have to close down. Well, I'm not too sure myself. I only know that they're playing at a pretty high level. Zhao Shimu scratched his head and tried hard to recall the rumors he had heard before. I heard that the Immortal Cultivator's Chamber of Commerce is extremely extensive. Not only do they have sufficient spirit crystal resources, they also provide various cultivators for rent. Their branches are spread all over the various counties of the immortal cultivation world. They are very powerful. Zhao Shimu only had a smattering of knowledge about this strange Chamber of Commerce. Most of what he knew came from hearsay. Zhao Xingxuan rubbed his chin and nodded, then asked, "From what you said, this the Immortal Cultivation Chamber of Commerce does seem to have some power. How did they find our Zhao family?" "Oh, around this time last year there was a Chamber of Commerce's salesman? That's how they introduced themselves. They came to the Zhao family to promote some services of their Chamber of Commerce." Zhao Shimu blinked his eyes and answered honestly. "Services? Are they renting out those high-level cultivators? Brother Guan, did you rent them at that time?" Zhao Xingxuan asked in surprise. He only knew that Brother Guan came from the Immortal Cultivator's Chamber of Commerce and served as a guardian of the Zhao family. He didn't know that there was such a thing. Yes. At that time, the salesman said that the Chamber of Commerce was in a business expansion period. If you applied for a membership, you could top up 100 spirit crystals and get 100 spirit crystals as a bonus. In short, it was quite a good deal. So I applied for it. Senior Guan was also sent here at that time. Zhao Shimu nodded. In fact, he had been fooled and confused at that time. He did the business in a daze and couldn't remember it clearly. What nonsense is this? Zhao Xingxuan was confused. He frowned and waved his hand. Forget it, forget it. Let's wait for the investigation team to come and deal with it. Since that Chamber of Commerce has the ability to rent out these gold core stage experts and claim that they have nascent soul stage experts, it shouldn't be a big problem for them to deal with such a small matter. Let's not worry about it. The discussion about the Immortal Cultivator's Chamber of Commerce came to an end. The two of them discussed some related matters. They felt that the Zhao family shouldn't be too arrogant recently, especially when facing the Qin family. They should endure it as much as they could and wait for the investigation team to solve everything. Zhao Xingxuan thought that he could spend more spirit crystals to bribe the investigation team and put all the blame on the Qin family. Then, his family would have nothing to do with it. After 2 days of peace, 3 young men came to the Zhao clan. They were all dressed in neat uniforms with strange red and white symbols pasted on their chests. The leader was a shrewd man. After informing the servants, the 3 of them waited at the door for a while. Not long after, Zhao Shimu opened the door and walked out. He asked in a dignified manner, "Who is looking for me?" Seeing the master of the Zhao family, the shrewd man smiled faintly. He took out a rectangular white jade token from his bosom and waved it in front of Zhao Shimu. "Oh, You are from the dead Immortal Cultivator's Chamber of Commerce? Zhao Shimu looked at the white jade token, then looked up at the familiar symbol on the young man's chest, and suddenly came to a realization. He hurriedly welcomed them into the Zhao manor, then ordered the servants to quickly invite Zhao Xingxuan over. Seeing that Zhao Shimu had confirmed his identity, Lu Huaishui put the white jade token back into his bosom and introduced himself. Hello Mr. Zhao. This is my business card. I am Lu Huaishui, the marketing director of the dead Immortal Cultivator's Chamber of Commerce. You can call me Xiao Lu. The two people behind me are my right-hand men and bodyguards. Sorry for intruding today. It's no trouble at all. We have been waiting for you to come. Zhao Shimu invited Lu Huaishui to the living room with a smile and waved his hand. Mr. Zhao, you are too polite. Lu Huaishui smiled faintly and went straight to the point. Today we have come to your residence to disturb you because we have received orders from the higher-ups to investigate the Golden Core Stage expert, Guan Weikai, who died in the line of duty a few days ago. We hope that Mr. Zhao can take the initiative to cooperate with our work. Chapter 1353. No problem, just tell me how you need me to cooperate. Zhao Shimu personally poured tea for Lu Huaishui, then asked the other two people to sit down and said with a smile. Then I'll have to trouble Mr. Zhao to explain the situation at that time and the cause and effect. I need to make a record here. Lu Huaishui tilted his head slightly, and one of the bodyguards immediately took out a book and put on a posture of preparing to record. Okay, it's like this. A few days ago, when a direct descendant of our family went out, he accidentally encountered the Qin family in this town and was humiliated for no reason. So we wanted Senior Guan to teach them a lesson and let the Qin family suffer a little, but we didn't expect. Zhao Shimu was stunned, then he sat down and described the situation at that time without missing a word. However, Zhao Shimu wasn't a fool. Naturally, he wouldn't say that Zhao Xingxuan had used Guan Weikai as a shield. He would only say that the Qin family's expert had focused all his spells on Guan Weikai, causing him to die from the explosion. This was also the result of the discussion between Zhao Xingxuan and Zhao Shimu. They were prepared to insist that it was the Qin family who killed Guan Weikai. Anyway, Guan Weikai was already dead, so they could say whatever they wanted. Shimu, how is the investigation going? After Zhao Shimu finished speaking, before Lu Huaishui could speak, Zhao Xingxuan walked out from behind the screen. In fact, Zhao Xingxuan had already arrived, but he didn't want to show up so early, so he waited for Zhao Shimu to finish explaining the situation before coming out slowly. Zhao Shimu secretly gave Zhao Xingxuan a look, then he stood up and pointed at Lu Huaishui and said, "Reporting to great-grandfather, this is Lu Huaishui, Director Lu of the Dada Immortal Chamber of Commerce. He came to investigate the situation. I just told him how Senior Guan was killed by Xiao Chang and you came over. He hasn't made any conclusions yet. Mr. Zhao, may I know who this old man is?" Lu Huaishui saw an old man suddenly appear, and he couldn't help but be slightly stunned. He also stood up and asked politely. Upon seeing this, Zhao Shimu quickly said, "Oh, Director Lu, this is my great-grandfather Zhao Xingxuan. He is also an expert in the Gold Core Stage. When Senior Guan was killed, he saw it with his own eyes." "I see. Hello, old Mr. Zhao, I also have some questions to ask you." Lu Huaishui's eyes flashed and he smiled. "Hee, the younger generation will surpass us in time. Jianghu is your world now. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. As long as this old man knows, I will definitely answer." Zhao Xingxuan faintly smiled as he stroked his beard. Lu Huaishui bowed slightly, then asked, "According to Mr. Zhao Shimu's testimony, Guan Weikai from our Chamber of Commerce was killed by an expert from the Qin clan called Xiao Chang, right? I wonder how strong this Xiao Chang is." "Oh, according to my many years of experience in the immortal cultivation world, this Xiao Chang might be at the Golden Core Perfection stage." Zhao Xingxuan pretended to ponder for a while before replying cautiously. Lu Huaishui's expression had a hint of suspicion, but he still continued to ask politely, "Then why would the Qin clan humiliate your clan's disciple for no reason? Did your two clans have similar conflicts in the past?" Although after listening to Zhao Shimu's description, the ins and outs of this matter were already very clear, Lu Huaishui felt that it was definitely not that simple. Thus, he wanted to thoroughly investigate the matter before making his own judgment. Zhao Xingxuan had lived for so many years and was a sly fox. Naturally, he could see Lu Huaishui's doubts, but he didn't reveal anything. He only replied in a watertight manner, the Zhao clan and the Qin clan naturally have grievances. You just have to casually go to the town and ask around and you will know the truth. I wonder if old Mr. Zhao can spare me the trouble of doing this and tell me directly? It will also save me the trouble of bothering the residents of your town. Thank you very much. Lu Huaishui smiled slightly and followed up with a question. Zhao Xingxuan's face flashed with anger, but he still held it in and waved his hand saying, "In fact, it is very simple. It is nothing more than a conflict caused by some related interests. For your Chamber of Commerce, you should have long been accustomed to it, right?" That's good. Seeing that the conversation had reached this point, Lu Huaishui no longer pressed. Instead, he pondered for a moment and muttered to himself, "An expert at the peak of the gold core stage. I didn't expect such a powerful person to exist in such a remote town at the edge of the immortal cultivation world. It seems that there is still something fishy about this matter." Ignoring Zhao Xingxuan and Zhao Shimu who were staring at him, Lu Huaishui reached out and snapped his fingers at the bodyguards behind him. He casually picked up the teacup on the table, took a sip of tea and even shook his head to savor it. Among the two bodyguards behind him, one of them was recording the conversation between them just now. The other bodyguard saw Lu Huaishui's movements and immediately opened the leather bag he had been holding, then took out a document and a pen from it, took a few steps forward, and respectfully placed them on the table in front of Lu Huaishui, then retreated to his original position behind Lu Huaishui. Zhao Xingxuan and Zhao Shimu looked at each other, thinking that this marketing director was quite arrogant. Moreover, the two bodyguards behind him were very reserved, and their bodies were tense and vigilant at all times. They didn't seem to be good people either. According to Zhao Xingxuan's observation, he estimated that these two bodyguards were also experts at the gold core stage. He couldn't help but be secretly shocked. It seemed that although this immortal cultivation chamber of commerce didn't have a good name, it really had many capable people. Even the bodyguards were at the gold core stage. It could be seen how powerful it was. Lu Huaishui picked up the pen on the table and quickly spun it a few times in his hand. He used his other hand to open the second page of the contract and then used the pen to draw a thick line at the bottom of the contract. He picked up the contract and handed it to Zhao Shimu. "Mr. Zhao, the lease contract of the Immortal Cultivation Chamber of Commerce, I presume you have already understood the contents of it?" Lu Huaishui asked Zhao Shimu with a smile. I'm not sure what you're talking about." Zhao Shimu had a bad premonition. He didn't dare to look down at the contract in front of him and hesitantly opened his mouth to speak. Knocking on the table, Lu Huaishui raised his chin and indifferently said, "According to the contract, if Party A, that is, your Zhao family, during the period of renting the experts provided by Party B's Immortal Cultivation Chamber of Commerce, because of personal grievances, the experts were involved in a dispute, resulting in the death of the experts, then Party A should compensate Party B for the losses of 10 times the rental amount." You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.